What is up, guys? Londrick here, and now I'm back with a Q&A. So yeah, I put this out a couple of weeks ago, and now we're going to do it. Yeah, it's just going to be that simple. I don't really need to have a big explanation. If you've seen many of these before, you know exactly how it works. I've got all the questions right here in a document that I'm going to go through. This one's probably not going to go too long. I would say this is probably going to be a 2 hour at the most. So this isn't going to be a super long one, but there are some decent questions in here, and let's just get to it. So we're going to start with Axe Ghazi. So 3 questions from him. 1, I've already made my thoughts on Vince clear in the comment section of that audio video. However, I think this is the proper time to give him even more verbal beating. Earlier this year at WrestleMania 38, it was Theory before Pat McAfee. He would have booked it in a logical way right. Wrong, capital letters and an exclamation mark there, so he means business here, guys. He means business. As much as I love the stuff involving Stone Cold with him stunning both Theory and Vince, everything before that was awful. First off, McAfee won, okay, not ideal, but acceptably enough. But then through a war of words, McAfee and Vince became official, and Vince went over. What a despicable egomania. Despicable. He could have just booked it the right way. They could have easily had Vince interfere and cost McAfee the victory. Then Stone Cold saves the day after that, and Theory was victorious. But no, Vince absolutely had to get involved and go over terrible. Another exclamation mark. Agree or disagree? Yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. Honestly, I hated that. Hated that Vince and McAfee thing. They only did that for purely. Vince did that purely for his own ego. I mean, that was probably honestly that was probably actually the only thing I really hated at WrestleMania this year. I mean, there was some stuff I didn't like that much, but I mean, this is the only thing I really hated. I mean, yeah, I think you're right. The Theory McAfee thing, McAfee was going over was okay. I'd have rather lost the Theory went over, but whatever. But honestly, that was absolute fucking bullshit, wasn't it? I hated that. And I think the match was an absolute dud as well, obviously, because Vince was 76 years old at the time. He's 77 now. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know what was going on. Did Vince do this on purpose because he wanted one last WrestleMania moment because he knew what was coming? That's my personal theory, anyway. But it was disgusting. It was just like, what are you doing, you egomaniac? However, it is far low down on Vince's list of sins over the years. I mean, if you want to think of horrible things Vince has done over the years, that one doesn't even scratch the surface, but yeah, it was awful. So he's an interesting one. I might get a lot of hate from my answer here, I might not, we'll see. On March 30, 2008, who would have won in a real fight? Not in a scripted wrestling match, not in a boxing match, not in an MMA fight, but in a flat out everything goes real fight. Big Show, Floyd Mayweather. Right. So yeah, so I'm just going to say it. I've got to go for the Big Show. And yes, I know Mayweather's a world-class boxer and all that. And if it was a boxing match, yeah, Mayweather probably would have won. But in a straight-up fight, I've got to go for the Big Show. I mean, one, I know sizes and everything and all that, and all this size matters thing and all that, a lot of nonsense. But when the size difference is that much, I mean, we're what, 5'7", 100 and I don't know how 150 pounds or whatever the hell it was at the time, and then you got the Big Show, 7-foot guy who was over 400 pounds at the time. And obviously, like, how's Mayweather Mayweather's not going to be able to punch it's going to be hard for Mayweather to punch the Big Show in his face from a standing position and all that sort of thing. So obviously, I think the only chance Mayweather would have had to win is if he took the fight long and he could get the Big Show winded and then take advantage. But basically, if the Big Show can get hold of Mayweather, then I think Big Show's just way too strong, and he would have just overpowered him and destroyed him, and then just beat him up. And that's my theory anyway. I've got to go for the Big Show. So, what are your top intergender matches that you've seen so far? If you can't think of 10, just go for the ones that weren't awful. So yeah, I can't really think of 10 great ones. So I'm just going to tell you which ones are the good ones. Because I'll be honest, like, a random indie intergender match. I don't actively go and seek them out. I mean, the only ones from the indie scene I've really seen is the ones you've seen me talk about on the match pick series, and so I'll say, so I'm not going to do any real order either. So I'll say these are the ones that I've seen that I've liked so far. I'll say the best one I've seen was the one of Josh Alexander and Ruby Soho from Absolute Intense Wrestling last year. I don't know if you've seen that one or not, but it is out there and on the internet if you want to look it up. Yeah. Not saying that this is the best intergender match of all time. And by the way, just to make it a little bit easier, I'm going for a straight one-on-one match between a man and a woman. So no like mixed tag matches or just a 6-man tag match where one of the participants is a woman or anything like that. Yeah, I'm just gonna go for that one really. A straight one-on-one match. So yeah, I'll say that was actually a great match with Alexander Ruby Soho. They actually made that one really work. Then I would say El Generico versus Sarah Del Rey. That match, the match you showed me, that match you made me watch for your match pick not too long ago. That was really good. Then we had Adam Cole versus Candice LeRae from PWG. 2014, I believe it was. Yeah, I did that one for match pick as well. So I've already seen one of the Tessa Blanchard versus Sami Callihan matches, and I saw the one where she won the Impact World Championship. That was actually a really good match. I've not seen the second one, but I can't remember one of them was a Hard to Kill, but I can't remember which one it was. But I've definitely seen the one where Tessa wins the title before. That was good. Then as far as the WWE one, I'll probably say the best China match was against Chris Jericho at Armageddon 1999. Yeah, that's for me stands out as China's best match. I think the Survivor Series match was fine, but not that good really. The Jeff Jarrett Good House and Keaton match was kind of fun for what it was, but I'll go with that one, China versus Jericho. I mean, obviously there's probably dozens and dozens of other really good to great intergender matches out there. It's just, yeah, I'm just being honest, like, I don't actively seek this stuff out, so if people don't know, like, a lot of these obscure matches that I watch for, like, match pick and all that, chances are, a lot of the time, it's the very first time I've ever seen that match, and probably the only time I'll ever watch it as well. But yeah, so I'll go with Alexander versus Soho, Generico versus Sarah Del Rey, Adam Cole versus Candice LeRae in there, Tessa Blanchard versus Sami Callihan, and for more of a mainstream one, Jericho versus China. Now, next set of questions come from the furthest shield we've got. How do the Usos measure up in terms of the best teams ever? Are they up there? Oh, they're definitely up there. I don't know if they're one of the absolute best teams, because I just don't think, because I mean, they haven't really been in a hot era. I mean, they just haven't had the impact, so I would say definitely top 10 for sure. Because I think like they haven't had the impact the Hardys, Dudleys and Edge and Christian had, and they don't have the legendary status that someone like maybe a Demolition or a Road Warriors or Steiner Brothers have, or Heart Foundation, teams like that. So I think what's impressive about them in the New Day is the longevity. But especially the Usos, because when you think about the top teams in WWE, I mean, the Usos have been together for 12 years. 12 years! Started in 2010, so if you think about it, Edge and Christian, for all they did, their run was 2 years, right? So like a top team like the Heart Foundation, they were together 6 years. Demolition, for what they did in WWF, 3 years at the most, because obviously it was like 87 and then it was 90 that Demolition started turning to Crushing, all that. The Road Warriors were never in a top promotion together for that length amount of time, especially in WWF. It was like, what, 2 years, and then that year from 97 to 98. New Age Outlaws as well, they only lasted like 2 years. Obviously the Dudleys were a great team all around the world. But yeah, I think they're definitely up there, because let's face it, just the sheer consistency they've had over the last decade has been great, and who knows how much longer they'll team up. They could end up being like a 15-20 year team. So yeah, I would have both of them and the New Day around the top 10. And yes, I know. Was it last year that WWE had a list and they named New Day the greatest tag team of all time? And then my eyes rolled in the back of my head so far. It was hard to pick them out. But yeah, I would say the Usos definitely rank up there. I mean, for me personally, because it's not my era. I mean, I love Edge, Christian, Harris, and the Dudleys because that was just my era growing up. And then just that incredible 80s one and the New Age Outlaws were so hot. But so I wouldn't put them in quite that category, but they're not too far behind. Now that's a good one. Could you rank the original members of Nexus/NXT Season 1's wrestling careers as a whole from worst to best? Okay, yeah, that's a pretty good question, isn't it? So, I'll go with number 8 is obviously Michael Tarver, because Tarver was gone like right after that SummerSlam match. I mean, I'm sure if I remember right, he got injured after that and never came back to the main roster, and then hasn't done anything of note ever since. I mean, and he never popped. I can't remember him popping up with a big injury or anything like that. And then that was it for him. Now I would say if the rest of the 7 had okay careers overall, but I'll go on number 7, David Otunga. I mean, he didn't amount to much in WWE. When the only time I can remember him getting something was the pushes in 2012, in that WrestleMania match of Team Teddy and Team Johnny. I'm pretty sure he was the captain of Team Johnny, right? So it seemed like late 2011, early 2012, they were going to do something with David Otunga, but it never panned out. And then after that, he sort of retired and settled into a commentary role. So yeah, now this one was really hard. I mean, 6 and 5 are really, really hard to split, and I had to go back and forth on this one because this one was so close. And I went with Heath Slater number 6 and Justin Gabriel number 5. Now, Heath Slater obviously had the better WWE run because he was there longer. But let's face it, he was a lower mid-card guy virtually the entire time. I mean, he did have a couple of sparks, like, yeah, 3MB for much as it wasn't all that good, was actually a fairly decent actor in the main roster, and obviously is a lot more remembered now because it was what Drew McIntyre and Jinder Mahal were doing. And then that angle he did on SmackDown in 2016 where he was undrafted and all that, and they ended up teaming with Rhino to become the SmackDown Tag Team Champions. And then the Legends thing he was doing in 2012 was pretty decent. But yeah, he was just I just think he stayed in WWE for far too long. I mean, I would say he probably stayed there at least 4 or 5 years too long. And he just kind of he was just pretty much, at one point, he was pretty much a level over a job, wasn't he? And in fairness, he's gone to Impact, he hasn't made that big of an impact. I mean, he's done alright in Impact, but nothing really special. So I'm going to give the nod to Gabriel over him because I feel like Gabriel's had a much better career outside WWE. I mean, he left WWE in 2015, something like that. Then he's had a decent career since then as PJ Black, mainly for Lucha Underground, for other companies as well. So yeah, I've got to go Gabriel number 5, Slater number 6. Number 4, this one's surprisingly this high, but let's just go with it. Darren Young. That's an interesting one, because I feel like he had a reasonably decent WWE career after the Nexus. I mean, most notably in the primetime plays for like 2 or 3 years. I mean, they were quite over for a time. I mean, they're not like a hugely memorable tag team or anything like that. But for a little while, they were a fairly good tag team, him and Titus O'Neil, and they were the tag team champions. And then he'd done stuff like he'd had the odd US title shot on pay-per-view and stuff like that. But what a lot of people might not realise, and in the last like year or so, he's actually had a bit of a career resurgence in New Japan Strong on the New Japan USA brand as Fred Ross here. I mean, yeah, honestly, like he's actually had a really decent, very decent, a good career in New Japan over the last year. I mean, I've watched a couple of his matches as well. It's like, okay. I mean, there's one in particular stand out as being really great, and that's the one where he won because he's a current New Japan Strong Openweight champion, and he beat Tom Lawler for that maybe 3 months ago or something like that. That was actually a pretty awesome match, in fairness. I mean, yeah, honestly, check that out, match out if you haven't seen it. Now, the top three, now this one, I don't know how much hate I'm going to get for this one, but I've gone for Wade Barrett at number 3 and Ryback at number 2. Because you could say longevity, Barrett had a longer career than Ryback, and on paper maybe had a slightly better career, you could possibly say, because he was the main one that was pushed out of Nexus at the time before John Cena buried him. And then I just think just injuries really derailed him so many times. It looked like so many times he was going to do something. I know at least one time he was very close to winning Money in the Bank, but then I believe but then he's a 6-time Intercontinental Champion. The Bad News Barrett thing was pretty good for a while. He was in League of Nations. But I just feel like at his peak, Ryback was so much higher than Wade Barrett. Because I think people forget just how over Ryback was for a time. Because a lot of people just see Ryback as this obnoxious jackass now. I mean, yeah, Ryback's just become an internet dick over the last couple of years. I think he just really took his bitterness towards WWE too far. But in late 2012 into early 2013, this guy was really, really over. I mean, he had big pay-per-view main events, and it looked like he was on the verge of becoming something. I mean, it never quite happened for him, but for that little bit of period of time, he was doing really good stuff. I think number one's obvious is Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson. I mean, I don't think anyone's really going to disagree with that one. I mean, I don't think I really need to elaborate on that one too much. If you've known anything about wrestling over the last 10 years or so, you'll know what Daniel Bryan Danielson has done. Then, here's one, okay. Thoughts on Ric Flair's last match, and yes, I have seen it. Didn't watch any of his show, but I checked it out, and, oh god, I just found it really, really sad, more than anything, and I just came out of the match feeling sorry for the guy. I will say, because you had Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal and Andrade in there, the match itself was actually okay. I mean, it wasn't as bad as something like Undertaker and Kane versus DX at Crown Jewel, or Goldberg versus The Undertaker at Super Showdown. So it wasn't quite that. I would say the rating, I would say 2 stars, maybe 2.25. I would say 2.5 at an absolute maximum, but I'm thinking more around the 2-star level, because he did have Jarrett, Lethal and Andrade. But yeah, God, honestly, right, I just wish it didn't happen, I really do. And I really, really, really hope Ric Flair's ego doesn't get the better of me. He just doesn't try and do it again. I mean, I admire him for having the balls and having the heart to go out there and do it. Because at 73, it probably wasn't easy for him to get into reasonable shape at 73 years old to do this. But yeah, the match was 27 minutes, I think it was. That was just like, what? Why? And obviously, I've got to think this was Ric Flair's call, because he just wanted to do this so badly. But if the match was like 12 minutes or something like that, I think that would have been so much better. Oh, honestly, yeah, Flair's performance. Yeah, it was just sad to watch. I mean, Ric Flair since revealed that he passed out twice due to dehydration during this match. Honestly, it got quite scary at one point, because it was very apparent, like halfway through this match, that Ric Flair was fucked, and especially towards the end. Honestly, like I just feel such a relief that he came out the match okay. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah, but honestly, it was just something I found it really, really sad to watch, and I'll never watch it unless someone requests to prescribe a match pick, which they might. But off my own back, I'm not going to watch that match ever again. And I really, really, really hope this Ric Flair's last match is Ric Flair's last match. Because I feel like he got lucky this time. Next time he might not be so lucky. So what would you have liked Dark Side of the Ring to cover if they got a new season? So I've just picked a few out. And it looks like Dark Side of the Ring Season 4 is off the table for now. because they're doing something called Tale of the Territories, which is presumably comes out next year. So it looks like the dark side of the ring's on hold, and I honestly feel like the Plane Ride from Hell was a bit of a game changer for those guys, because I've heard like various people criticise him, particularly Jim Ross said he's not going to do it again because he quote unquote misrepresented, which basically means he didn't like being called out for shitty behaviour. So just a few, I would say Buck Zumhofe. Who is Buck Zumhofe, you asked? Well, he was a wrestler in the 80s in the AWA and all that, did a few jobs with the WWE. But why would he have an episode on him? Because he raped his daughter repeatedly groomed and raped his daughter over a period of several years. Yeah, that's a pretty sick story, isn't it? Now, this is one I would like to see them. Wait, to be fair, I could tell a joke here and say, could we just have Dark Side of the Ring Series 4 entirely on Vince McMahon? But lawsuits and all that sort of stuff, it's probably not going to happen. And this is one I could be good if they could cover, but I don't know if they could get by illegally, because I'd feel like WWE wouldn't possibly come after them. And that's the Ring Boy scandal of the early 90s. That was the one with Pat Patterson, Terry Garvin, and what's his face? Mel Phillips were allegedly, I'm just saying that allegedly, so nothing comes back here, allegedly harassed, groomed, had forced sexual encounters with various young ring boys in the early 1990s. And that was a fairly big scandal at the time, and it was going on at the same time as the steroid scandal as well, so it was kind of a double whammy for the WWF at the time in terms of horrible publicity. Because all the alleged perpetrators have passed away now, but obviously with Patterson having really close ties to WWE, not sure if they could get this out without WWE trying to sue them to protect Patterson and all that. But yeah, that could be an interesting one. Now, obviously, these are all hypothetical, and obviously, you have to take in the people's willing to participate and all that. So, picked out 3 wrestlers to go with. And I think the obvious one has to be Sonny Tammy Sytch. But yeah, obviously, it's fine unless she wants to participate in it or not. Oh God, yeah, poor Sonny, man. That's just been a horrible story over the last 10, 15 years or so. Probably going back longer. You gotta be back to the mid-90s, like, she seemed to have it all. And then her life just went out of control, really. And is she back in prison now? Because when she accidentally ran that bloke over and killed him in a car accident. I don't know if she's back in jail or not, but oh God, yeah, that could be a fascinating tale. Then I'll probably go with Scott Hall. I mean, this one might not be feasible because it's just too close. Maybe this possibly too soon after his death and all that, but such a fascinating story, really. I mean, of all the addictions he went through and like the trauma he had of when he killed that guy in self-defense when he was a young man and all that. Because that's what really started all of his downward spiral and all that. And then kind of the redemption story that he had, but then we'll leave it at that for that one. And then Jake Roberts, because obviously Jake's story was touched upon in the Grizzly Smith episode, but I would say just put Jake in a more general sense and maybe a new spinner, because a lot of this is covered in Beyond the Mat, but I feel like that documentary was just so biased and all that, and just went out of his way to paint Jake in the absolute worst light possible. But honestly, that Grizzly Smith story hasn't even scratched the surface. I mean, you could dig much deeper into that. I mean, there's so much more of that story to tell, really. And then just a couple more, wait, one more. And I know it's not really, because they have done stuff like this before. I've said the Heroes of Wrestling pay-per-view. That would be an interesting one to tackle, because that wasn't really sinister or sleazy or anything, but it was such a disaster. And they have covered the Brawl for All, which was kind of a similar situation. So I feel like if they could get the right people to talk about how this came together, what went wrong, all that sort of thing, that would be pretty interesting. Now let's get back into the questions. I'm just going to slip back into here. This is a good one. If we're talking strictly kayfabe, who would be your GOAT of wrestling, e.g. Goldberg because of the streak, Ric Flair for the 16 titles, etc.? So this is a very, very interesting question. And When people talk about the 16-time world champion, well, I could put a counter argument to that. Yeah, Ric Flair and John Cena won 16 world titles, okay. They also lost the title 16 times as well, so you can spin it that way. So I would say there's two. Because if you're going to talk about world champions, how could you argue against Bruno Sammartino? Because yes, Ric Flair was a 16-time world champion officially and all that, so was John Cena. But neither of them were the world champion for 8 years, were they? So you've got to think about that. So he was champion from 63 to 71, so never lost a title match in nearly 8 years. And then he was champion again from 74 to 77, so overall he'd held the world title for 11 years. So you go for him, and I think statistically, because I've looked in this before, and I think statistically it could be the Ultimate Warrior, because Ultimate Warrior has never lost, since it was the Ultimate Warrior never lost a match clean. I think it is a fact that Ultimate Warrior has the best win percentage record in WWE history. I believe that's a fact. I've seen that before. Because you think in WWF, Warrior was pinned 2 times. Once at WrestleMania 5 against Rick Rude, and that was when Bobby Heenan grabbed his foot, so that wasn't a clean win. And at Royal Rumble 1991 over Sergeant Slaughter, when Randy Savage hit him with the scepter and cost him the match. So from that perspective, then in WCW he got pinned off Hogan, and that wasn't clean either. So I'll go with the guy that held the title for 11 years, and Bruno Sammartino, or the guy that never lost a clean match in his career, in the Ultimate Warrior. So there you go. Then we got Radical Velocity, fought on Konosuke Takeshita, and do you think he could be a big star someday? So I have a weird sense of humour sometimes. I like to call him Take Shitter, because that's how his name's spelled, and I just think that's quite funny to call him Take Shitter. Yeah, I've been impressed with him. I think obviously he's got a pretty good size, got a good look, really good in the ring. Can he be a big star? My vision, I think he could be a big star in New Japan, because I feel like that's definitely in his future, because he's home promotions DDT at the minute, and you got to think a young Japanese wrestler obviously has aspirations to move on to New Japan when the time's right. Can he be a big star in America though? I'm not sure, and I think it's obviously a language thing. Because he's not going to be great on the microphone, is he, really? Because he probably doesn't speak English all that well, and he doesn't really have a character over there. Yes, I'm a good in-ring Japanese wrestler, and I think to really break through, you're going to need a bit more than that. And I did honestly like his AEW work, but none of it was in the character department. It was a purely off an in-ring perspective. But I could easily see him in the next couple of years going to New Japan and breaking through there. Because I could definitely see him and Okada having a big feud, him wrestling Tanahashi, him having a great G1 climax and all that sort of stuff, and possibly IWGP champion as well. So I could see he'll be a big star in Japan, but I'm not too sure if he will do that in America or not. Okay, if you were Triple H, who would be the first person for AEW you would try to sign? Obviously, I think the real answer is whoever's contract comes up first. But we'll put it as a hypothetical scenario. The contracts aren't a thing, and then Triple H could literally go and get anyone from the from the AEW roster. This is how I think you'd be one or two people we'd go for. I think you would try and sign Adam Cole back. That's just my take. I think he would. I think he'd go for Adam Cole. Obviously, Adam Cole's a major part of Triple H's NXT. He knows Adam Cole very well. He knows how to book him a lot better than Tony Khan did. Just saying. Sorry, AEW fans. So yeah, I think obviously he'd go and have a good chance of the main roster. And the other guy, I would say, is Bryan Danielson. He could bring back Daniel Bryan. It's not going to be CM Punk, is it? Because if you remember, that a lot of the major heat of Punk in WWE was with Triple H, so I just don't think Triple H would touch CM Punk, and I just don't think he'd want the drama. But if he wanted the big star from AEW to come back to WWE, I think he'd go with Daniel Bryan, because I think he could do some really good stuff with him. And I think that'll happen, actually. I think Bryan will go back to WWE once his AEW contract's up. But we'll see. Well, yeah, the real answer is obviously whoever's contract comes up first. But you know, what do you think of the best example? Oh, here's a good one. Okay, what do you think of the best example of a wrestler that was better in NXT in comparison to AEW? I will say Adam Cole. Well, we're not exactly spoiled for choice in this category, are you? I mean, honestly, a quicker question would be who's been better in AEW than NXT. To be honest with you. Because so I would say your choice of Adam Cole is probably the biggest example and the one I would go with. Yes, so I would say I don't think I think Adam Cole's AEW run has been a little bit over criticised, but I don't think it's been as good as he was in NXT. But fucking hell, let's take our pick here: Malachi Black, Aleister Black, Andrade, that's the one, Samoa Joe, Kyle O'Reilly. You know, there's a lot of people that I don't think AEW has booked as well as they were in NXT. Keith Lee to a certain extent. Yeah, I'll say Keith Lee is one there as well. Obviously not main roster because that wasn't the question, but NXT for sure. I'd probably go with Adam Cole as well. I think that's probably right. And so what are some of your favourite New Japan matches of all time? So I'm not going to go too deep into it because I could go on for like 10-15 minutes just naming. So I'll go for a few. I mean, I'll say easily all the 4 Okada versus Omega matches, Wrestle Kingdom 11, Dominion 2017 and 2018, and the G1 Climax 27 match. If you had to press me for an absolute favourite, it would be the Okada versus Omega finale in Dominion 2018, that 2 out of 3 falls match. Amazing match, honestly. Then I would look at the Okada versus Tanahashi Wrestle Kingdom 9 and Wrestle Kingdom 10 main events. I would say in particular the Wrestle Kingdom 10 one, but also Okada versus Tanahashi King of Pro Wrestling 2017. Amazing match. I would say Jericho versus Omega at Wrestle Kingdom 12, just for how big that match was and just what it meant as a fan getting into New Japan at the time. Do really have been better New Japan matches than that, but that's a personal favourite. Omega and Ibushi versus the Young Bucks, a strong style evolved. If you like Young Bucks AEW matches, that you should definitely check that one out. Tanahashi versus Minoru Suzuki from King of Pro Wrestling 2012. That was an incredible match. I'll say Kenny Omega versus Naito's G1 final in 2017, G1 Climax 27. Wow, unbelievable match. Will Ospreay versus Shingo, Best of Super Juniors. It was 2019, but I can't remember which number Best of Super Juniors it was. But it happened in 2019 anyway. I think there's a lot more, but I don't really want to go on for ages about. So the matches I picked right there are the ones the absolute top tier ones for me. Then we got Yasin JK6A3. Okay, do you think Kevin Dunn will stay in WWE long term? No. To be fair, I'm kind of surprised he's still there now, but I just think it's a matter of time. I think he'll be out pretty soon. I think it's just a matter of WWE getting someone trained up and all that and ready to go to replace him. Because Dunn was Vince's ally for so long. I mean, he was basically Vince's boy for like 35 years or so. And I just think if you want a new regime, you slowly weed the old ones out. I think Bruce Pritchard's in the same category. He's there for now, but I don't see it lasting too long. And okay. What's your favourite and least favourite movie about wrestling? I mean, least favourite, I don't really know because I don't really watch that many. Because I find most of them silly and just like... Because I think people that don't like and enjoy wrestling kind of just... or don't really understand it either. Just sort of see wrestling as this silly little thing just to make fun of. And most people do make fun of it. I mean... I think most people see wrestling as this silly, stupid little thing that fuck all these losers watching all that and just don't understand it. So stuff like Nacho Libre was pretty stupid. I didn't really like that one. So Ready to Rumble, obviously that was absolute garbage. But for the best one, there's only one answer really, and it's the wrestler. I mean, if you haven't seen the Mickey Rourke one in 2008, If you haven't seen that movie and you're a wrestling fan, what have you been doing? You have to watch that movie if you even have a passing interest in pro wrestling. I mean, it's the only movie that's been quite accurate on wrestling. It's the only movie that's treated wrestling with some respect and all that, and taken it seriously, and not just taking it as, that stupid wrestling stuff. That shit's all fake, you know. You still watch that crap, do you? Fucking hell, you're 35. Stop being a loser. You know, that sort of thing. Oh, God, yeah. So, yeah, I think Mickey Rourke's portrayal of Randy the Ram Robinson was amazing as well. It was dramatic, it was gritty, it was sad. I've doing there's a lot of other things inspired by Beyond the Mat and stuff like that, but oh yeah, if you want like a straight up movie about wrestling, The Wrestler is the way to go. Trust me. Then we got if you okay, that's a good right. This is going to be. I'm going to give a slightly morbid answer as well. To be fair, if you could know the answer to one mystery in wrestling, both kayfabe and RIL, I assume that means in real life, which one would you uncover? Okay, so right. So in reality, and this is going to sound morbid as fuck, but I would honestly want to know exactly what happened with Chris Benoit's situation. Yes, I know. Obviously, I know Chris Benoit killed his family and all that. That's not to be debated right now. But I just want to know. I'd love to know exactly what happened. Like, how did he do it? When did he do it? Why? Like, basically, so there's so many unanswered questions. Like, did he wake up that Friday and think, you know what? I'm going to kill my wife today. You know what I mean? Like, because I will never ever get a conclusive answer to why he did it. There's a lot of conspiracy theories and all that. And I personally think it's just a mixture of everything. Depression, drug use, bad marriage and all that. There's the steroids, yeah, I guess. Also the head injuries and that. So I think just everything, all the pressure and all that, and Chris just snapped and killed his wife. So I would love to know exactly what led him to that decision. And then what was going through his head when he killed his wife, and then decided a day later he was going to kill his son as well. And then at that point, after he killed his wife, did he then make a decision to kill himself because he didn't want to face the consequences? And he's thinking, if the wife's dead and I'm dead, what's going to happen to the son? So he thought, in his warped, deranged mind at the time, that the best thing was to kill Daniel as well. And then what the hell was going through his head when he was in the house by himself for at least a day with two fucking dead bodies in the house? I mean, that's one of the most fucked up things about this situation. So he killed Nancy on Friday, Daniel on a Saturday, and himself late Sunday. And just the fact he was in the house by himself with two dead bodies. So what was going on in his head? Was he thinking? Was he thinking he could show up the vengeance and just play ignorant and all that? And then exactly why did this happen? What could have been avoided and all that? If I could ever find out exactly what and why and how it all happened, I really want to know. And then a kayfabe one, that's an interesting one. I've got two. The first one is kind of funny now. But do you remember when Shane McMahon came back to WWE in that storyline of Vince where he faced the Undertaker at WrestleMania? And they talked about the time where Vince fucked up and Shane bailed him out. And then a mysterious lockbox. There was a lockbox that had some incriminating evidence on Vince that only Vince and Shane knew about. And then the lockbox just got forgotten about and didn't get mentioned again. So the big mystery. What did Vince do and what was in that lockbox? NDA agreements? Sorry, is that too soon to joke about? But yeah, they're like, oh yeah, but seriously, like, what was the contents of the lockbox and what were they going to do? And the other one, and this is one we never ever got an answer to, who was behind GTV? This is back in the Attitude Era where a mysterious GTV would be a mysterious hidden camera in the arena when it would catch various wrestlers doing various disgusting things. I mean, a few storylines were evolved as far as this was in 99-2000. I think one of the very, very last ones of GTV was we caught Eddie Guerrero cheating on China in the shower with Godfather's former whores. But originally, if you remember, because I do know who it was supposed to be originally, it was supposed to be Goldust, because if if you go back and you see the very first couple of GTVs, it was actually called GDTV, and that was mean Goldust TV, but then Goldust left the WWF. And there was actually another idea as well to be for Tom Green, because Vince Russo said that, and then but basically Vince McMahon didn't know who Tom Green was, and that's why that was dropped. And then Russo left the company as well. But even like a good year after Russo was gone, they kept doing this GTV thing, and it just never got resolved. We never found out who it was. And I think that would be kind of interesting to finally find out the perpetrator of GTV. There is an easy question I could answer quite quickly, because I think I've answered this before in other Q&As. If you could go to one wrestling show in person from the past or present, which one would you go to? Yeah, WrestleMania 17. I don't want to elaborate too much, because I think it's such an easy answer. I mean, as I've said many times, my favourite wrestling show of all time, so it would definitely be that. Then we got Diesel 101 Raw. Am I the only one who's been the most excited for the Raw Rumble that I've been in for years, with everything that's been going on? I'm not excited yet, because Raw Rumble's like, 4 or 5 months away. But I think if WWE TV keeps being pretty good in all that, in the build up of the Raw Rumble, I think by the time the Raw Rumble comes round, I will be excited for it, and it's going to be interesting. And I've got more questions about this Royal Rumble later on the Q&A, so I won't tell you who I've picked the winner yet, because that's a future question. So do you think we'll finally see Brian Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr.? Yeah, it will happen. Obviously, it was supposed to happen at Forbidden Door this year, but Brian Danielson got injured. But yeah, it's going to happen. Because AEW and New Japan partnership's a long-term thing. I don't know when. It might happen at Wrestle Kingdom this year. It might happen in AEW this year. But it's coming. I think it's just a matter of getting the match together and finding the opportunity to do it. And when it does happen, it's going to be frigging great. Do you think Brian Danielson and CM Punk could have a 5-star match again? See, I don't know. I don't really know. Because what is a 5-star match? You know what I mean? It's all subjective, so there's no such thing as a factual 5-star match. I mean, you could think something's a 5-star match, I couldn't. I could think something's a 5-star match, you don't. Someone else commenting the video might find something else a 5-star match. Dave Meltzer might find it a 6-7-star match, who knows. All I'll say is I feel like Daniel Bryan and CM Punk will continue having awesome matches, and they'll have many amazing matches, and that's all that really matters, really, doesn't it? Well, kind of the same token, when do you think CM Punk versus Brian Danielson will finally happen? I think it'll definitely happen within the next year, because now that AEW settled on CM Punk becoming the world champion, I think it's a possibility for Full Gear, but at this point I'm thinking unlikely. So I'm thinking, I think possibly Danielson could win the world title eliminator tournament for a second year in a row. And then maybe they can do what they did last year. And then Punk and Danielson can wrestle at the December Dynamite Winter is Coming show. Because I'm just assuming they're going to do a Dynamite Winter is Coming again in December. But it could even happen. If not, it could happen on a pay-per-view next year. But either way, I think we'll definitely see it at some point in the next year. I think you've got to do it now while you can. Because I just think you've got to do it as soon as you can. There we go. Who do you next feud you want to see CM Punk as champion? Well, it looks like it's going to be it doesn't look like it is going to be MJF, because MJF won the joke with a Joker in the casino ladder match. So that match looks like it's going to happen at right now. I'm going to assume that match is going to main event the Arthur Ashe Stadium show later this month, and then is that going to be a one and done? I'm not sure. But then I think after that, for me personally, I would love to see CM Punk Samoa Joe just one time. Maybe on a pay-per-view, maybe on a big Dynamite. I don't know if the match could deliver what I expected it, but I just think for nostalgia purposes, that would be so cool. And I kind of think Punk and Moxley, that's not done now, because that's 1-1. and that's something you got to circle back to. Now, this is going to be interesting if this could actually happen now, because I don't know how many people's been following the backstage drama in recent days with CM Punk versus Kenny Omega. That's the match that's got to happen. However, if this Punk and Omega in the book situation is real, and I believe it is, this might prevent this match from ever happening. Who knows? Then we got, okay, Matthew MacGyver. Now, that's a good question. What do you think Edge's last match should be? Now, I've got to presume this question is being asked because what happened a couple of weeks ago when Edge said in his hometown of Toronto he would like to retire in 2023, and he wants his last match to be in Toronto in August, because WWE often runs Toronto in August. So, in an ideal world, maybe we get SummerSlam next year in Toronto. But either way, by the way, Edge is talking. I think he is looking to retire next year, and that's awesome. I think he's had a really good run, and I think for him personally, it'd be great at this time he could say, okay, that's it. I'm done. I'm content. I'm gonna happily retire now. I've got my career back. I had a good run, and then I'm packing it, because he's going to be 50 next year. So you'd think presumably he's going to look to be retiring. Obviously, the perfect scenario would be him and Christian one-on-one. However, or even Edge and Christian versus the Hardy Boys. However, that's just not going to be happening, is it? Because Christian's under contract with AEW. I'm presuming he'll be still there next year, because he signed in 2021, didn't he? So let's just say, for argument's sake, he signed a 3-year contract. I would say that's probably a minimum of what he signed. So he probably wouldn't be free to go back to WWE until 2024. And obviously the Hardy Boys have just gone, well, Matt's been there for a while, but Jeff's literally just got there, and, well, you know. So that's not going to, so the scenario that could happen, and I think the obvious one would be Edge versus John Cena. Now, this obviously depends on WWE being able to get John Cena, and John Cena being able to pull back his filming commitments to actually have like maybe a month's worth of TV and then a match. So if you could get Cena Edge for next SummerSlam or something like that, and that being Edge's last match, yeah, I mean, that'd be of the WWE roster or people WWE could get access to. It's got to be Edge and Cena, because I mean that'd be just a great way, a poetic way to end his career, wouldn't it? Having a big feud with John Cena, having a big match. There we go. How much longer do you think Jericho will keep wrestling for? I mean, who the hell knows? Because if you'd asked me this time last year, I would have said he was coming to close the end. But he's actually had a little bit of a resurgence this year. I mean, how old is he now? 50? He'd be 52 this year. And he's still wrestling at a very good level. But he's being logical about it. He's in his 50s now. And you've got to think, the end isn't too far away, is it? I mean, yeah, the end's got to be for the next. It's got to be for the next 2 or 3 years. But then again, on a part-time basis, Sting's still wrestling. I mean, for me personally, I would much prefer Jericho to stop wrestling full-time and maybe be more of a special attraction for AEW. I think it'd be much more effective if you only had maybe 4 or 5 matches a year from now on. But then there's also something in the back of my mind. I think Jericho will go back to WWE, you know. I think once his AEW contract comes up, whenever that is, I don't know. But I think Jericho will probably come back to WWE, maybe have 1 more year there, and then retire there. So I don't know of the exact date, but you just got to logically think, in the next 2 or 3 years, I would say 5 years maximum, but honestly, who knows? Then we go. God, my computer's shit. Right, I'm back. I was just having internet problems there. If you could bring back one WWE pay-per-view for the past, which one would it be? So it would probably be an Attitude Ruthless Aggression era pay-per-view. I would have said Judgment Day, but then that wouldn't make too much sense, would it really, with the Judgment Day being a faction now and all that shit. I would say, because obviously they brought back Backlash, haven't they? They brought back No Mercy in the past. So maybe something like an Unforgiven or an Armageddon or something like that. I mean, those are both pretty bloody cool names, so something like that, I would say, really. There we go. That's a good one, okay. So if you started a wrestling promotion, who would be the first 5 wrestlers you would sign? So yeah, obviously hypothetical scenario and all that. I think the first draft pick would be Roman Reigns, probably the biggest overall star in the game. Just because you'd want a megastar, wouldn't you, to get things off to a good start, wouldn't you? So I think Roman Reigns would be a great bet for that. Then I'll probably say if you've got a top heel with Roman Reigns, you need a good babyface. And for me, I think Drew McIntyre would be perfect. I mean, he's got it all. He's got size, look, in-ring ability, promos, big star. So him and Roman could be 2 of the guys you could build your promotion around. And then I'll go after that. I think you want something a little bit different, just something a bit more violent and gritty. And I think John Moxley would fit the bill here. I think John Moxley, if I could pick anyone from AEW, it probably would be him. I think he'd be a really great shout. Then number 4, and yeah, I know this guy has a lot of baggage, and I've decided I'm not going to talk about the media scrum on here and all that shit that's been going down over the last couple of days. But CM Punk, obviously big time star, great on the microphone, still pretty good in the ring, but obviously CM Punk is a big star and all that. And the last one could surprise a lot of people, and I'll go with Sami Zayn, and there's a very specific reason for that. Yeah, there's bigger stars I could have picked, but if you want a company, you need people like Sami Zayn, because Sami Zayn is just that guy that can do anything. I mean, pretty much anything you can give him, he's made it work. I mean, for fuck's sake, he actually had a really good, entertaining feud, a match with Johnny Knoxville. I mean, come on, how many people could have honestly pulled off what Sami Zayn did at WrestleMania this year? And then, obviously, the work Sami Zayn's done as a bit player in the Bloodline has been fucking awesome. I mean, because you've got your guys that are going to be your top guys, but you need people to make these guys look good. And no one in the game can do that any better than Sami Zayn right now. I mean, Sami Zayn is just absolutely awesome. And he'd be great. I think he'd be great for any roster, really. There we go. Do you think Sheamus deserves to win the Intercontinental title before he retires? Yeah, and I think he will. I know the what am I saying? Clash of the Castle didn't go his way, but I think it's just a matter of time before he does. I mean, let's face it, that Walter match was amazing, and it's the one accomplishment he hasn't done. I mean, he's literally done it all: world champion, WWE champion, US champion, various versions of the tag team titles, Royal Rumble, Money in the Bank, King of the Ring. That's literally the only way. I suppose you could go to NXT, but if you wanted to, but I think, yeah, that's all he's really got left to do. And he will win the Intercontinental title. I mean, I'm convinced at some point in the future he will win the Intercontinental title. And he should win the Intercontinental title as well. There we go. Okay, 225. What is something about the Attitude Era that you feel would be great in today's landscape of wrestling? Okay, so overall, just the energy levels and the feeling that anything can happen at any time. I think that's what made the Attitude Era so great. You never quite knew where they were going to go. That outside the box thinking, that energy of literally anything, because we did watch Raw back then. You think like you didn't know exactly what was going to happen, and it was just all these outside the box entertaining stuff that you would see. And after the Attitude Era, wrestling lost that, and especially under Vince when WWE got much more regimented and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, I've got to think that. And then on the other side of the coin, what is something about today's wrestling that you feel would have been great in the Attitude Era? It's got to be the women. The way the women wrestling is taken seriously now, because the Attitude Era, women's wrestling was shite. I mean, it was, and I actually defend that, because by saying that's what the audience at the time wanted, but you had all sorts of stupid stuff like bra and panties matches, striptease matches, pudding matches, fucking all that, and all that sort of shit, bikini contests and all that sort of stuff. I was going to say just in-ring product in general, but when people say like that wrestling wasn't good in the Attitude Era, it was really just 1999, because my counter argument is well, look at how great the in-ring product was in the year 2000. Honestly, the in-ring product in 2000 was awesome. In 1998, it wasn't so bad either. I think it's really just 1999 more than anything. And I think when people say the Attitude Era is overrated, I think the more accurate one would be 1999 is overrated, not the Attitude Era as a whole. But anyway, back to what I was saying. I think women's wrestling, if you took that serious, and the talent was there to do it. I mean, Ivory could wrestle, Jacqueline could wrestle, Luna Vachon could wrestle, Tori, not Tori Wilson, you remember the other Tori? It was Terry Pooch is the real name. The one who was with Kane then was the X-Pac, and she could work. Then I feel like just some of the people that were there could have maybe gotten better training. Such people like Terry Runnels and all that could have actually traded, actually being reasonable wrestlers and all that instead of eye candy that they were. And then he could have. Then obviously Molly Holly came in later in the Attitude Era. She could wrestle. I mean, if these women had got the chances that the women of today are getting, who knows what they could have accomplished, you know? Then who was a better heel between Chris Jericho and Eddie Guerrero? I would go with Chris Jericho, because thinking back really, for the most part, Eddie Guerrero's a heel. How much of a heel was he really? I mean, come on. Especially in WWE, how much of a heel was he really? I mean, when he did so when he did the lie, cheat and steal thing of him and Chavo, he was a heel, yes, but he was just so entertaining. He had to turn babyface. But even before that, when he was a heel for a little bit with China as Latino Heat, that was just so good that he wasn't going to work as a heel. Then even 2005, when he played the role well, but I think fans were kicking and screaming to boo him. I don't think fans truly wanted to hate Eddie Guerrero, but I think, yeah, you know what I mean? I think there was always a huge reluctance to boo Eddie Guerrero, because it was really hard for Eddie to be a heel because he was so good and so entertaining. I would say probably his best run as an out-and-out pure heel was probably WCW in 97, 98. And then I think Chris Jericho, when he was the Honest Man of 2008, with the short hair and all that in the feud with Shawn Michaels, I think that heel run was better than any of Eddie Guerrero's heel runs. That's just me, so I'll probably go with Chris Jericho. There we go. What wrestling gimmick do you feel is overhated? Which gimmick is overhated? I mean, for me, it could be either IRS or the Repo Man, because I've seen them come up with like Wrestle Crap top 10 worst WWE gimmicks, and especially IRS, and I'm like, no, IRS wasn't so bad actually. I mean, maybe it's because this is what I grew up watching, all that, but I actually thought, especially for the time, IRS was actually a pretty decent gimmick, and it wasn't so bad at all. And then I also think Repo Man was pretty damn entertaining for what it was, because you've got to think how cartoony that era was. But so I thought it was fun. And then, what wrestling match you feel is overhated? I don't know really, because I think most when people say something's a bad match, for the most part it usually is. I don't dislike Brock Lesnar versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 30 as much as some people. I know a lot of people thought the match sucked, but I honestly thought, apart from the result, I thought the match was actually pretty solid. It was a decent, solid brawl, told a decent story and all that. So I'll probably go with that one. Oh, here we go. I read it. Side note, Man United bottom of the Premier League. What the fuck? See, lad. You shouldn't have said that, should you? Because they're not bottom of the Premier League now, are they? Since you post that comment, they've won 4 on the bounce now, and now they're up to 5th. So, aye. So there you go. Beating Liverpool, beating Arsenal. So, yeah. They're not bottom of the Premier League now, are they? Nah. How about that? They're 5th now. Man United's back, so screw you. Then Jay Shepherdson, do you feel WWE has improved since Vince stepped down? Yeah, I definitely do. I mean, I still think there's a long way to go, and I think it's still not perfect and all that. Plan is in maybe 6 weeks to 2 months' time, maybe a bit after that. I'm probably going to do a proper video on this list talking about the Triple H era of WWE so far. But yeah, I've just seen a few really good fundamental changes. I mean, it just feels like a much more coherent, much more better storytelling. I think there's just been a lot more focus on the show. Yeah, I think there's a long way to go, but I think you've had some good TV, some good storylines and all that. just little things really so far, like the procedure of the mid-card titles be looking a lot better. And then I think you can tell the promos aren't completely scripted anymore, for the most part anyway. And you can just tell there's a good buzz and there's a good atmosphere around WWE now. Now, how long this will last, who knows? This could just be a honeymoon period and all that. But I'll say for the most part, he's pushing some guys that weren't getting pushed before. We're getting some good storylines and all that. I think we still have some dodgy booking decisions. I mean, it all hasn't been all perfect. I mean, two that stick out to me is Aaliyah and Raquel Gonzalez winning the women's titles, and particularly McIntyre losing to Roman Reigns at Clash of the Castle the other day. So I think there's still a long way to go, but I'm really happy with the direction WWE's going in right now, and I just think good things are coming, and let's hope that continues. There we go. Early predictions for the 2023 Royal Rumble winners. Okay, so women's one, I think you got to go with Becky Lynch, because I feel like, especially now they both turned with her, Becky's gone back babyface and Ronda Rousey turned heel. I think that's going to happen at WrestleMania, isn't it? Becky versus Ronda Rousey finally. I mean, 5 years too late, maybe, but it's 4 or 5 years too late, maybe, but it looks like it's finally going to happen. So let's just assume Becky's able to come back in the next couple of months, think her winning the Royal Rumble. Because yeah, I know she'd be a 2-time winner, and that's not ideal. But who else is? Does anyone want to see Charlotte win? No. And there's not really anyone else on the horizon right now. I mean, Rhea Ripley's a possibility, because they might do something like Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair at WrestleMania. That'd be pretty sweet. But I'm going for Ronda Rousey at some point to win back the SmackDown Women's title in the not too distant future. Cause I don't think Liv Morgan's a long-term champion. I really don't. So I think at some point before the end of this year, Ronda Rousey will get the SmackDown Women's title back. And then Becky wins the Royal Rumble to face Ronda Rousey. Now, for the men's, yeah, I think Cody Rhodes has to be the favourite right now, surely. Because I know 6 to 9 months and he got injured in June, so I think he can come back from his injury in time for the Royal Rumble. I mean, I have a vision of, like, you remember when the build up with Triple H's big comeback in 2002 with all the trainer videos and all that, and then Triple H come back as a huge babyface to win the 2002 Royal Rumble. I have similar visions like that to Cody, and especially now that Reigns beat McIntyre, it's like, who the hell's left really? But it's going to be interesting, because I think it's going to be Roman Reigns versus The Rock at WrestleMania, and I really hope that's not for the title. I mean, because if they do that, I could possibly hear The Rock win it, but I could see that just turning a lot of people off. And so it's got to be Cody Rhodes now. A lot of it does depend on what's happening with the titles, because I do feel like the titles might be split by the time the Royal Rumble comes around, and that opens up a couple of more opportunities. But I think so. To cut myself short there, Becky Lynch and Cody Rhodes are my current picks to win the Royal Rumbles, but we'll see. There we go. Has AEW declined in the past few months? So there's another question about this, so I'm going to talk about it more now, and then just quickly elaborate later on. I think, yeah, I really think so. I think AEW has had 2 really hot periods. First one being at the start of 2020, right up with the pandemic. And then the second one was last year, from the summer of last year, when the fans came back and then threw all out, Danielson and Punk coming in, Dynamite Grand Slam last year, and that hot streak lasted up until about Revolution of this year. That's it. Yeah, since Revolution, it's like I've been questioning a lot of AEW decisions a lot more over the last 4 or 5 months. I think the TV show's been like, huh? There's been some good stuff in there, but there's been some horrible stuff in there as well. In a nutshell, I think they're lacking direction, and obviously the injuries have not helped. I mean, the absence of MJF, CM Punk getting injured right after winning the world title, Bryan Danielson getting hurt and all that. So, and then obviously Kenny Omega hasn't been there until recently. But I just feel like Tony Khan's starting to run out of ideas, and he's starting to just book shit for the sake of it and basically throwing shit against the wall and seeing what sticks, sort of thing. That's sort of, I just feel like, yeah. Obviously, I still enjoy AEW on the whole, and I do think this is easily turned around. There's some good booking and some good storytelling. But yeah, I feel like AEW is not in a great place right now. On screen, and looks like probably off screen as well. But yeah, I just think in a nutshell, it needs to be better, hopefully. There we go. Will Theory fail to cash in? See, I think it depends on one thing. If they're going to split the titles again. If they split the titles again, I'll say there's a good chance Austin Theory cashes in to win the WWE title, not the Universal title. But if it's going to be one champion, I just can't say, because I feel like that'll be such an underwhelming way for Roman Reigns' title reign to end, isn't it? In a Money in the Bank cash-in with Austin fucking Theory. I just feel like that'd be terrible. It wouldn't go down well. And I just feel like the way they're pushing Austin Theory doesn't suggest that they're that high in him right now, especially with Vince leaving and all that. Yeah, in a nutshell, if it's right now, I just can't picture him as WWE champion. So I'm gonna go out on a limb and say, yeah, I think Theory will. I do think that's going to happen. I think Theory is going to cash in and he's going to fail. But that's just me. I could be wrong, but that's just me. Thoughts on the cancellation of NXT UK and the release of practically whole roster. It's sad, isn't it? I mean, let's face it, NXT UK has been a low priority over the last couple of years, especially since the pandemic. I mean, so it's not a big surprise to see them pulling the plug on NXT UK. Now, they have said it's going to be NXT Europe next year, but they've been really vague on that. They said 2023, but that could be January next year, that could be December next year. Or it could be something that just never gets off the ground, you know what I mean? The NXT UK was decent for a while, but I just think it got lower and lower priority and just less people. It's kind of annoying when people are saying that they think it's bullshit that NXT UK has been ending. So if you're that pissed off about it, why weren't you watching and following it over the last couple of years then if you were that bothered about it? You're only bothered about it now because you've cancelled it, you know what I mean? So interest was really low. Not many people were watching NXT UK anymore. I think it's sad for the guys though. I mean, it sucks for the guys that are being released because let's face it, they were probably getting paid more working for NXT UK than they were any time before that in their career. I mean, let's face it, at least if you work for WWE, you're going to get a steady paycheck, aren't you? I mean, so let's face it, some indie promotions probably don't pay the guys very well, if they're getting paid at all. So at least with WWE, you've got a steady, regular income. So it's disappointing for the guys that have all lost their jobs and all that. I think the lucky ones are the ones that have been moved to America full time and now they're doing very good in WWE. But if NXT UK Europe gets off the ground, at this point we don't, because I feel like a lot of these releases will be temporary. They'll go back, they'll work a little bit, and then they'll come back once NXT Europe is ongoing. But the sad thing is, really, for a lot of them, what UK wrestling scene have they got to come back to? I mean, a lot of people say NXT UK killed British wrestling. And yeah, that is 100% a factor. But it's not the only factor. I mean, let's face it, COVID just ruined everything, didn't it? I mean, you got to think like if a lot of these companies didn't run for the best part of 2 years, and there's just no way you can get that momentum back. And then, well, find out a lot of them are either paedophiles or sex offenders didn't help either, did it, in the speaking out movement? Yeah, actually, now I think about it, that could be a dark side of the ring topic if they ever get to that. Just to circle back to a previous question. So, the guys that have been released, what are they going back to? I mean, let's face it. Progress, ICW, Rev Pro's nowhere near as hot as it used to be. I mean, let's face it, all the talent that were really going to make it have all been moved to America, haven't they? And then other talent like Zack Sabre Jr., Will Ospreay, working full-time in New Japan. So, who knows? It's just really, it's sad for the guys. I feel more bad for the people that's being released more than anything, rather than NXT UK going away, because I do sort of feel it had run its course, sort of thing. And will this NXT Europe thing come off the ground? I'm sceptical. Let's just say I'm quite sceptical about that, and just leave it at that for now. There we go. So we're an hour in now. We've got, let's have a look. Oh, my knees. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more sets of questions. So let's keep going, guys. Then we've got Owen Peterson. This one's very list related. So top 10 greatest pay-per-view intros of all time. So I've got a list down of ones I've wrote down, which I really liked. So some I'll go into detail, some I won't, because I've talked about them in the past. So the WrestleMania ones I've picked out are WrestleMania 19, WrestleMania 20, WrestleMania 17, WrestleMania 13, sorry, WrestleMania 18. So I've got 4 WrestleManias on here. If you had to push me to say me so that's 4 there. So if you had to push me to say my absolute favourite, it's got to be Life's Not Fair for SummerSlam 1997. God, I love that intro. It basically, Life's Not Fair was the theme, and they were talking about the various struggles that Bret, Undertaker and Shawn Michaels had been through over the last couple of months. And that tune as well that he did it to, just the narration, the video package. I don't know if it's on YouTube or not, it might be, but I'm sure if you've seen SummerSlam 1997 before, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So then I'll say another 2 that go back to back, which God I love. Rumble 2000 and No Way Out 2000, based around Triple H versus Cactus Jack. I mean, the Rumble 2001, Triple H and Cactus Jack talk about the history, is awesome. Then one of Cactus Jack by himself at No Way Out 2000. God, that's just so iconic, isn't it? Then I'll probably say Survivor Series 1998, The Deadly Game On. God, I love that. And it annoys the fuck out of me. That one is so edited on the WWE Network, and it pisses me off. It actually does piss me off, to be fair. But I love that intro. That one is on YouTube, because I've looked it up before. But God, it is brilliant. Then I'll probably say Vengeance 2001. God, that was awesome, wasn't it? With all the Freddie Blassie and the black and white footage of all the history of the world titles and all that. And that's the first time I can remember them using the WCW archive footage, because I always remember that image in black and white image of Ric Flair celebrating the Starrcade 1983 with the title. Oh God, that Vengeance 01 was awesome. And now, so I'm going to cheat and have 11, because there was 2 more and I didn't want to leave one of them out. Now, one of them was the Judgment Day 2001, which basically just listed a lot of different things you could do in an hour, like just random little facts about how many times you blink, how much time you how many people die, how many babies were born, all that one. And then they just go through an awesome montage of The Rock and Triple H's careers. Great. And then one I just wanted to include is the Invasion one. I mean, honestly, some of the video packages of the Invasion were great, and I dare say if you didn't know anything about the Invasion angle, I could probably show you some of these video packages and trick you into thinking the Invasion angle was awesome. But yeah, those ones. Now we've got, to which top 10 former Intercontinental Champions would you like to see in the Hall of Fame? So yeah, I've got a list here now, because a lot of these people work for AEW and they aren't going to go in, and then one of them isn't going to go in the Hall of Fame. That's just that simple. So I'll go through them briefly. I'm going to have the cut-off point being around the early 2000s. It is hard though, because a lot of the classic champions, like a lot of the classic Intercontinental champions, are already in. So I'm going to go D'Lo Brown, number 10. I just think, why the hell not? Why not put D'Lo Brown in the Hall of Fame? I mean, there's a lot of mid-card guys from the Attitude and the Golden Era that have been in the Hall of Fame that you could argue shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. Coco Beware, Hillbilly Jim, The Godfather. If The Godfather's in, why can't D'Lo Brown be in the Hall of Fame, is all I'm saying. And now this is an interesting one, because it's like, this one, the guy that could be in the Hall of Fame but hasn't been for some reason, that's Ken Patera. I mean, he's the only one of like the early, so let's just say the first 15 years of the Intercontinental title, so 79 to like the mid-90s. I think he's the only really good Intercontinental champion that isn't in the Hall of Fame. And I'm not sure why. I mean, he was a pretty good start in the early 80s. I mean, the second ever Intercontinental champion. Actually had quite a few big matches with Bob Backlund, back when Backlund was the WWF champion. And obviously had a very decent career in the AWA before that. when he came back later in the 80s, that wasn't so great, but that is what it is. But yeah, I don't know why. Then we'll see. Number 8, William Regal. He's in NXT right now. No, he's not. He's in AEW, excuse me. But he was an Intercontinental Champion, and he could definitely go in. Jeff Hardy. I mean, I'd prefer the Hardy Boys to go in the Hall of Fame, but Matt was never Intercontinental Champion. Jeff Hardy was. Now, he's, of all the people that either aren't in AEW or the good Intercontinental Champions that could go in, Ken Shamrock. Why is Ken Shamrock not in the Hall of Fame? He could fit in any Hall of Fame. He's in the Impact Hall of Fame, but he's not. I don't know if UFC have a Hall of Fame or not. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But if they did, I would assume Shamrock's in that. But I don't know that. But yeah, but he's not in the WWE Hall of Fame, and I don't really know why. Then we go top 5. I would say Goldust again. He's in AEW, so he's probably not going to go in until he's finished with AEW. But Goldust was a really good Intercontinental Champion in '96. He could definitely go in. Christian, I mean, for Christian, his career doesn't. His Intercontinental title reigns weren't really that great, but he did have a good career, and he's definitely Hall of Fame worthy. Then the top 3, obviously Chris Jericho. I mean, he'll go in once he's finished with AEW. I'm convinced of it. He will. Just obviously he has a lot of history with the Intercontinental title as well. Then number 2, Owen Hart. I mean, that's just not going to happen now, and I've accepted it. I've accepted the fact that Owen Hart's never going to WWE Hall of Fame. It isn't going to happen, guys. And then number 1, The Rock. I mean, the thing is with The Rock, when you think of The Rock, you don't really automatically think of an Intercontinental Champion. But he's a 2-time champion. Let's face it, his first run, Rocky might be, okay, yeah, that was kind of crap, whatever. But he had an awesome reign in 1998. That was great. And yeah, like I said, it's who I want to go in the Hall of Fame. The Rock is going to go in the Hall of Fame, isn't he? It will happen. Here we go. Also, Chris Benoit's 5 straight pay-per-view matches from either the US or TV title in 1998. So I had to figure out what you were talking about, and I'm assuming you're talking about the. So Super Brawl, yeah. So Super Brawl and Uncensored with DDP, and then DDP was written for the US title, wasn't it? Then it was 3 straight TV title matches. I didn't think about what you were talking about here. But yeah, I did remember that. Oh no, Benoit and Fit Finlay from Slamboree was a US title match, wasn't it? No, not a TV title match. Excuse me. Then there was a Booker T one, a Spring Stampede, and a Great American Bash '98. Yeah. Oh yeah. I think it was just done because I think '98 was the year Chris Benoit started to get a little bit more recognition in WCW, and I just feel like they wanted a hot title match, and Chris Benoit was the right guy. I mean, all these matches were really good to great. I mean, thought the DDP match of Super Brawl was excellent. Obviously, as you might have seen recently, I named the DDP versus Raven as the best WCW match of 1998. Then the Booker T match is Spring Stampede's underrated actually, because it wasn't actually in the Booker and Benoit Best of 7 series, was it? I mean, that's what the feud's most remembered for. But no, they had a great TV title match before that. I do think the Great American Bash one was better. That was great. And then the Finlay match was a very hard-hitting, solid match. It wasn't an awesome match or anything, but it was a very good match. So yeah, there we go. I love this question. This is probably one of my favourite questions of the whole Q&A, because this one's right up my street. Rank the 11 series of WWF Hasbro figures based on legendary status of the wrestlers in each series. So yeah, this one's right up my street. I mean, I do have all the Hasbros, apart from the mail-aways. So I've got every single retail Hasbro figure that was made. Haven't got the mail-away Bret, Undertaker, or Hogan, because I'm not paying £1,000 for a wrestling figure. I'm just not doing that. So yeah, there's 11 series, and let's rank them. So number 11 has got to be Series 10. I mean, you're going to see an obvious drop-off here because obviously these figures started in 1990 and ended in 1994. And you just obviously WWF had a lot more bigger stars in 1993, 94. Just that simple. So I think Series 10's got to be I think that's probably the worst Hasbro series of the lot, really. I mean, yes, you had the repaints of Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon, but the other figures, you had Giant Gonzalez. For some reason, a repainted Bushwhackers. For me, that was the most pointless figures in the series, because, like, in 1994, why was the Bushwhackers really the best team you could have producing these figures, really. A singles version of Marty Jannetty, and the Head Shrinkers. I mean, yeah. Then, I'll say number 10, Series 11, celebrated as the Green Card series is, because it was the last series, and those figures are a lot more rare than any of the other ones, and all I'll say is thank God I got these in 2016, because if you've seen the prices of these figures now, fuck me, ridiculous. But realistically, the level of stars isn't that great in this series, as much so as the figures are, so that set is repainted White Stash Yokozuna, Evil Crush, 123 Kid, the Smoking Guns, Adam Bomb, and Ludwig Borger. I mean, some of those figures are actually really good, but as far as star power, eh. Now, Series 6 is number 9. Now, that could be a controversial one, because this is the one that has Ric Flair in it. But look at the rest of the series. You've got Tatanka, you've got El Matador, you've got the Repo Man, you've got Papa Shango, and you've got the Berserker. So, as a kid, you had to have these figures because you wanted a full fleshed out roster. But realistically, Ric Flair's the only real star in that entire group, really. Then, I'll say number 8, Series 9. Again, just because WF was a lot lighter on star power later in the series than it was early in the series. I mean, this one you had the third version of Ted DiBiase. You had Hacksaw Jim Duggan in a singlet. You had the Steiner Brothers, which was cool. You had Doink the Clown, which was pretty cool as well. And then this is the one where they re-released Tatanka, wasn't it? Because this was the one that was supposed to have Mega Maniacs Brutus the Barber Beefcake. But they scrapped that when Beefcake left the company, which is strange, really, because a load of the Hasbro figures came out long after Wrestler left. I mean, Ric Flair's Hasbro came out into well into 1983 when he was back in WCW. You know what I mean? Like stuff like the Nails figure came out way after Nails was gone and all that. Like the Green Card series came out in late 94, early 95 when someone like Ludwig Borg was gone for so long. So they probably should have just released the fucking Brutus Beefcake figure, you know what I mean? Then number 7, Series 5 now. This was I think this is one where they had a lot more of the obscure characters. So you had the last version of Macho Man and Hulk Hogan. So you had the 4th version of Hulk Hogan. Then you had Macho Man in his hat and wrestling robe and all that, and jacket. So this one looked more like the Macho Man of 92, 93. And the only other big star in that series was Sid Justice. And again, that's one that came out like nearly a year after Sid left the company. But yeah, some of the characters in this one, you had Skinner, Virgil, IRS, the Warlord was in that one, the Mountie was in that one, Jim the Anvil Neidhart was in that one. I want to say that's maybe it, but I could possibly be missing one. I'm just going to have a quick look, because they're all right here in front of me. You can't see this, obviously. No, I think that's it. I think that's all of them. Yeah, I think that's all of them. So that's counts for Series 5. So we have the top 5 now. I think the top 5 is Series 8 because this is a year of repaints, but there was a 6th wrestler series, but God, they picked the good ones he had. So you had repaints of Bret Hart and The Undertaker and Mr. Perfect in that one. Then you had 3 great new characters in Yokozuna, Lex Luger, the narcissist Lex Luger, and Bam Bam Bigelow. Now, number 4, we're going to go with Series 3. Series 3, because I think this one where there was still quite a lot of good stars in there. So you had you had a Hulk Hogan Warrior again. Then you had Macho Man. You had basically a Series 2 Macho Man, Macho King Randy Savage, but it just literally said Macho Man on the back of his tights. It said a Macho King. But this was actually a pretty good set. You had Mr. Perfect. You had Sergeant Slaughter in there. You had the Big Boss Man. Earthquake and Typhoon singular, not as a tag team set, which we'll get into in a sec. We had the Texas Tornado, we had Greg the Hammer Valentine, and we had Coco Beware in that set. I'm sure it was Coco. I'm sure Coco was in that set. So yeah, that's a good one. And then we're gonna have Series 4. Now that was there was tag team sets, wasn't there? and they coincided with both Series 2 and Series 4. So Series 4, if we're including the tag team set, I mean, as far as single wrestlers, there was only 4, but fucking hell, you've got amazing choices. You had first Undertaker figure ever, the first Bret Hart figure, British Bulldog, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and his Dragon attire from 91, which is pretty fucking awesome. Then you had 2 tag team sets, but they were brilliant ones. You had the Legion of Doom and you had the Nasty Boys. But unsurprisingly, number 2 is Season 2. The first 2 seasons of Hasbro were... Oh, actually, I forgot to mention Brutus Beefcake was in Series 3. So, Series 2, you had 4 redos from the first series, which is a Green Suit $1 Million Man, Bear Hulk Hogan, you had a White Trunks Warrior, and you had the Macho King, Randy Savage. But, some more big stars in this one. You had Hacksaw Jim Duggan, you had the Honky Tonk Man, you had Rowdy Roddy Piper, and Dusty Rhodes. If anyone knows anything about the Hasbro series, knows how big the Dusty Rhodes figure was. That figure was so valuable for a long time. But then you had 3 awesome... So you had 3 good tag team sets in there. You had the Rockers were in that one. You had the Bushwhackers, the first one. Then you had the Smash and Crush version of Demolition in that one as well. But obviously the number 1 has to be Series 1. I mean, that Hasbro Series 1 is just so iconic, and just look at the names in here. So we had the aforementioned, we had Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, Ultimate Warrior, Ted DiBiase, that I talked about. But that's not all. We had Andre the Giant, Jake the Snake Roberts, Ravishing Rick Rude, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, Axe and Smash version of Demolition, and then Big Boss Man and Akeem Twin Towers. So yeah, awesome question there. So that's how I would do it. And then next question I'm not going to do as a list, I'm just going to name a few because it was a pretty hard one. And what is the single greatest victory of the faction for any 10 factions of your choice? So, because I couldn't think of 10, so I'm going to just think of a few. So NWO, that's going to be beating WCW in the War Games match at Fall Brawl 96. See, I couldn't think of one for the Horsemen, because looking back, as a group, how many matches did the Horsemen actually win? I'm virtually certain they lost all the War Games matches, and they didn't do a lot of 6-man or 8-man tag matches together on television. So, you know what? So, yeah, I'm virtually certainly never won a War Games match. 97 Half Hour Edition, that's obviously the Canadian Stampede main event. I mean, that's an obvious one, right? I would say the Shield, that one has got to be beating Evolution 3 straight falls at Payback 2014. Because he beat Evolution twice, didn't he? Once at Extreme Rules, and then emphatically in an elimination match at Payback the next month. So yeah, that's got to be one. But what else? Because let's face it, the Corporation didn't have many matches as a proper faction. Can't think of many 6 or 8 man tag matches for DX that really mattered. Same with the Nation, you know what I mean? Yeah, so those are the best ones I can think of, really. So I know that's kind of a shit answer, but I was really struggling with that one. So we got Prince of Strong Style 9 V2. I don't know when this will get uploaded, but I'll ask anyway. Do you think... Here we go, this is funny. Do you think Drew McIntyre is the right person to dethrone Roman Reigns at the moment? Or is there someone else just as worthy? Yeah, Drew McIntyre was the right person to dethrone Roman Reigns, wasn't he? 3 days ago, Clash of the Castle, but no. They didn't want to do that, so yeah. So Drew McIntyre, for me, was the right guy. But then I think the only other guy that's really worthy now is Cody Rhodes. I mean, if it's not going to be Drew McIntyre, which obviously it's not, the only other guy I want to see do it is Cody Rhodes now. I mean, Seth Rollins, maybe? But I think ideally should be a top baby face, and that guy's got to be Cody Rhodes, hasn't it? So, which have been your favourite compilations that you've watched / reviewed as party subscriber compilation series? So the favourite one, and I cannot remember what episode it was, but it was Jeff D. Daughter's first list, and that had 4 amazing matches on there. It had the Misawa vs Kobashi 2003 match from nowhere. It had Misawa and Kobashi versus Taue and Kawada, that 6-9-95 tag team match. Oh, amazing match. But then it also had Bryan Danielson versus Kenta and Bryan Danielson versus Nigel McGuinness from 2006, Unified and Glory by Honor. I can't remember what else was in there. I think it might have been the one, you'll probably know, to be fair. You'll probably remember better than me. But I think that also might be the one of that Kabashi and that tag match, Bashi and Nakajima versus Kensuke Kasaki and who was the other guy's name? I'm wrong. It was Kenta Kobashi and Go Shiozaki versus Kensuke Kasaki and what's his face, Nakajima. I want to say that one is in there as well, but the Japan stands out for those 4 matches I mentioned early on. After Kensuke Takeshita's acclaimed excursion to the US recently, what are some people you would love to see go on, whether it be Japan to the US or vice versa? See, okay, I'd love to see some from Stardom going like AZM, pronounced Zumi, I guess. When Tammy and Gala started for New Japan pay-per-view, coming. See, I'm not sure because I'm not really watching. I don't really know anyone from Stardom really to have a really good answer. And I'm not watching and I'm not watching DDT, and I think someone like Shota Umino's already had an excursion. He's been in the UK, so maybe he could maybe go to AEW for 3 or 4 months. I mean, that might be interesting. Because I'm not watching a lot of New Japan anymore, so I don't want to give a crap answer, but I'm not really familiar with the scene anymore, so if your picks from Stardom are probably good ones, but I can't really prove you wrong, because I don't really know anything about Stardom, really, because I'm not really familiar with the New Japan young lions that much either, because I'm just not. Is that Gabriel Kidd being an excursion? If not, I think he might be a good choice, but I don't really know because I'm not really following that much anymore. Now it's been a year since his epic debut on Rampage, barring injury. What's your assessment of CM Punk's AEW runs? High and low points, what could have been done differently, etc. Well, to be fair, nothing could have really been done differently as far as booking wise, because it's not AEW's fault CM Punk got injured, was it? I mean, but I think overall it's been awesome. I mean, the last couple of days has been a lot left to be desired for, but that's all backstage stuff. That hasn't been on AEW TV. So, in a nutshell, because I defended the early parts of CM Punk's AEW run that was getting criticised because he was having these matches with mid-cards and all that and beating them. But the story was CM Punk had been out of wrestling for 7 years and he was working hard to get back into his groove. So I always defended that shit. I know a lot of people didn't like that. When he was having those matches with people like Powerhouse Hobbs and Bobby Fish and Lee Moriarty and stuff like that, I defended all that stuff because I thought it was part of a bigger story. Then the Eddie Kingston feud was outstanding, but I think the only thing I would have done different there is just have the feud go longer, because I'm sure that feud was like 3 weeks at the most, possibly even 2 weeks. So I feel like if that Full Gear match had a lot more longer build up, but then the match was awesome, and then but that's the only thing I would have done different about it. Just have the feud go on longer, basically. And as I said before, I felt like Punk and MJF feud was virtually, maybe not perfect, because what's perfect really, you know what I mean? But I think that all CM Punk MJF storyline from the after Full Gear up until Revolution was the best feud storyline the AEW's ever done. I mean, just everything about it was so amazing. Like the story, the promos, even the first match of MJF beating CM Punk in Chicago, then the whole build up to getting the dog collar match at Revolution. Wow. And yeah, just 2 amazing pros having that. Yeah, that feud was amazing. Will the next part of the feud be as good? I don't know. And then obviously that led him to win the title from Hangman Page. And then the injury happened, and that just sucked, isn't it? Because I'm genuinely interested to see what the summer was supposed to look like, because he was supposed to wrestle Tanahashi at Forbidden Dawn. Shit the bed, I'm kind of upset we missed out on that, like. And then would CM Punk just going to feud with John Moxley into Full Gear, I mean, All Out anyway? I don't know. And obviously after that, now he's come back. I mean, let's face it, the build up to All Out just wasn't good. So in a nutshell, what I would have done there is not done what the fuck they did and throw that match on Dynamite. I would have just done the logical thing and had CM Punk versus John Moxley the other day at All Out be the match for the world, the the Undisputed World title match. They should never have done that match 2 weeks ago on TV, and especially they shouldn't have had it as a squash as well. So yeah, in a nutshell, that all-out match would have been the first Punk and Moxley match. So the high point have obviously been his return, his promos of Eddie Kingston, the entire MGF feud, winning the title from Hangman Page. Obviously the low point is getting injured, and then obviously the last couple of weeks. And obviously I don't want to talk. I'm not going to talk about the media scrum stuff now because I just don't want to. Think we're getting so much information out there that we don't know what the truth is yet. So I'm just going to keep me gobshot on that one for now. But yeah, overall I've enjoyed it. What are some talents you've been introduced to, watched for the first time in the past year that you've been impressed with as well? I suppose you want to see more. So Takeshita is obviously one. Now apparently I did do a Takeshita match in a match subscriptions, a match of Tetsuya Endo and DDT. It was either, can't remember what year it was. You'll probably know exactly what I'm talking about, but so I had seen that and I just didn't realise who it was. And then so for the like I say, I've enjoyed his run, but the standout name for me is Josh Alexander. Up until I did the matches, this is what I love about the subscriber match pick ones. You guys make me go out and watch matches I wouldn't go out and watch off my own back. And especially matches I just would not review on the channel for other than this. So I'm going to say up until, so basically all the matches of Josh Alexander I reviewed on the subscriber match pick are the only Josh Alexander match I've ever seen. But yeah, I think this guy's awesome. And I'll probably try and watch more of him in the future. And we'll see how it goes there. But if I had to press, I would probably say the favourite Josh Alexander match so far is the Iron Man match with TJP at Impact Wrestling. Was it last year? I want to say it was last year. Possibly 2020, but I think it was last year though. So yeah, I'll say Josh Alexander and Takeshita are the two ones that really spring to mind here. Well, I suppose Daniel Garcia as well is another one, and Wheeler Yuta, I suppose. Then we got 1, 2. Wait, we're nearly there, guys. I'll try and get to 2 hours, and so I'll try and speed things up a little bit. Manex on YT. What are your thoughts on Danhausen? I just don't get him. I really don't. I know this stuff's over and all that, but I guess it's one of those things that's just not for me. I just don't like. I think the whole gimmick's stupid. I just don't get the appeal of Danhausen at all. I just think it's all a bit daft. I mean, and this, maybe younger people like it. Maybe kids enjoy Danhausen today. I don't know, but I just feel like he's a waste of a member of the AEW roster. If I'm being honest about it, and I don't want to be harsh, but I just don't get it at all. I think it's a bit daft. Then we got. Who are likely opponents for Wardlow down the line if he remains TNT champion? I'm thinking Hobbs, Sammy and Ethan Page. Oh, not Sammy. I do not want to see fucking Sammy Guevara anywhere near the AEW TNT title again. I just do not at all. God, no. Not Sammy Guevara, please. Hobbs, yes, I think that'd be good. I think Will Hobbs would be great, actually. I think it'd be good for both of them, to be honest. I think Hobbs would be a good one. That'd be awesome. Ethan Page, yeah, that'd be nice if you could get off their asses and do stuff with Ethan Page. That'd be fucking, yeah, that'd be nice if you could actually get off their asses and do something with Ethan Page. I'd very much appreciate that. I mean, there's a few of the AEW roster, isn't there, really? There's so many. I think Samoa Joe, that'd be pretty badass, wouldn't it? Have Wardlow work with a veteran tough guy like Samoa Joe. I feel like that could really boost Wardlow. I think Daniel Garcia and Wheeler Yuta would both make pretty good opponents for him. Especially Daniel Garcia, I could see that one being a really good match of Garcia's technical skills going up against Wardlow's power and all that. I think that'd be pretty interesting. I think I would love to see Dax and Cash have like one title match each against Wardlow, just as a one-off on a Dynamite or something like that. I think that'd be pretty interesting. Who else? Let's have a see if I can think of other people. Yeah, Ricky Starks, that'd be an interesting one as well. Or that'd be babyface versus babyface, wouldn't it? But I'm not too fussed about that one, really. Aussie Jungle Boy, that could be interesting. But yeah, there's a few guys, because Miro, there you go, that's one, Miro, how about that one? Because let's face it, Miro needs something, doesn't need to really sink his teeth. So maybe that could work. Miro's the heel going up against Wardlow, two tough powerhouse guys. That'd be pretty interesting. There we go. What are your thoughts on the whole Acclaim gun club stuff going on? Well, that's obviously not going on anymore because you asked this question a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, honestly, I've enjoyed it. I think this is the sort of stuff I want to see more of in AEW. These two teams took this little storyline. I think they made the absolute most of it, because on paper, why was the Acclaim versus the Gun Club an interesting feud? On paper, that feud could have been pretty terrible, couldn't it, really? But it was actually a lot of fun, and you've got to give credit to both the Acclaimed and I think especially the Acclaimed. I mean, the whole scissor me daddy ass thing to Billy Gunn I find a bit cringy, but the AEW fans love it, so can I say it's bad? No, because it gets massive reaction. It's just kind of fucking balmy to me that in 2022 Billy Gunn's over again in his career. I mean, who'd have thought that? Of all the people to be over in AEW in 2022, Billy Gunn. But yeah, obviously the in-ring work wasn't that great, but I think the promos and the storylines were really good. And yeah, like I said, I'd rather see stuff like this than just this guy and this guy wrestling on TV because it would be a good wrestler match for no reason, which is what I see a lot of in AEW that I don't really like that much. But yeah, I've enjoyed it. I mean, obviously now we're coming out of All Out, and I think the Acclaim is just going to be bigger and bigger now. I think it's only a matter of time before the Acclaim become AEW Tag Team Champions, isn't it? Then what have we got? Ruthless aggression on New Generation. Basically before the Attitude or after Attitude. Yeah, I got that. In terms of matches. So in terms of matches, I think it's got to be Ruthless aggression. I mean, yeah, the New Generation you had. So the New Generation you had Brett, Shawn, Owen Hart, maybe Davey Boy Smith. So let's say from 92 to like early 97. Then like late Austin came through. But yeah, I think that the main event matches were usually really good to great, but you had a lot of dross on the undercards for the New Generation era, like King Mabel, Men on a Mission, fucking King Kong Bundy, and all that sort of crap. But yeah, I feel like it's from an in-ring perspective, the best time ever in WWE was 2001 till about 2005. Because just look at the level of workers you had in the Ruthless Aggression days. I mean, so you had Kurt Angle, his absolute best. Young Brock Lesnar, who was awesome. Then you had Prime Chris Benoit, Prime Eddie Guerrero, Prime Chris Jericho, Edge, Rey Mysterio, Chavo Guerrero. Shawn Michaels was back in the mix, doing great stuff. Then you had, like, Edge was, I've already mentioned Edge, haven't I? Then, yeah, they're like Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy, Rob Van Dam, Booker T. Veterans that could still do it, like The Undertaker. Later in the Ruthless Aggression days, Triple H. I mean, let's face it, 2003, not so much, but 2004 and 2005, very good. Then, yeah, I think Ruthless Aggression is probably the best time ever for in-ring action in WWE. Do you think the Rockers are the reason for why tag teams get split up? Just so one to say the Shawn and the other one Marty. Sometimes both guys in the tag team become Marty and never the Shawn. No, not really. I think that's pretty irrelevant, really. I mean, tag teams split up before Shawn and the Rockers, and tag teams split up after. I mean, the reason tag teams usually split up is sometimes the runners they've done just all they can as a team. The team's gone stale. The company sees star potential in one of the other two. And that's it, really. I just feel like Shawn and Marty splitting up's pretty irrelevant to why tag teams split up, to be honest with you. Then we got. So yes, okay, we're getting close now. We're getting close. Beads of Yoshi. So that's a good question. So name 3 WWE wrestlers you'd like to see join AEW, and pick 3 AEW wrestlers you'd like to see join WWE. So yeah, this is a basic question. We're going to have a straight swap. So I'll do WWE to AEW first, and the first name that comes to mind is AJ Styles. For me, AJ's had a very good run overall in WWE, but there's a sense now he's run his course there. I mean, he had that feud with Edge this year, but for probably the past year or two, he's kind of get the sense he's done all he can there. There's nothing really left for AJ to do in WWE, and there's a lot for him to do in AEW. First and foremost, if only to do Kenny Omega versus AJ Styles just one time while the clock's still there, because let's face it, AJ's 45 years old now. Probably the clock's ticking for that match to deliver what it could do. So if AJ went the next year or so, but then there's also, you could have AJ Styles versus you could do stuff with the Young Bucks and all that, him and John Moxley. Then there's all the young talent like MJF and Darby Allin and all that. So yeah, then I think that'll be pretty cool. Then I think the second guy I thought of is Ricochet. But I just think even now Ricochet's got a ceiling in WWE, hasn't he? I just don't see it getting much better for Ricochet in WWE. I mean, he might get the Intercontinental US title level again, but I just don't see him breaking through now, really. And I just feel like AEW is a perfect place for a guy of Ricochet's style. But let's face it, AEW fan base, like a lot of guys like Ricochet. I mean, yeah, I think Ricochet would fit into AEW's ring style perfectly. But yeah, just some of the insane stuff you could do with people like Rey Fenix, Pac, Penta, Bryan Danielson, Kenny Omega, CM Punk. Then obviously you could use the connection with New Japan to maybe do Ricochet versus Will Ospreay on the AEW show, or you could even do some more shots for New Japan. I think that'd be pretty sweet. And there we go. Now this one, right, this is my Q&A, so I'm going to slightly bend the rules here, and I'm going to pick the Usos. So technically I'm picking 4 wrestlers to join AEW, but it's three separate acts. It's my video, I'll do what I want. So the Usos, I feel like, with AEW's awesome tag team division, it's pretty much the fact that Usos have gone through virtually everyone on the WWE roster, and they've just been there for so long. They've been there for like 12 years. If they went to AEW, well, yeah, you go Usos versus Young Bucks, that one writes itself, doesn't it? Then Young Bucks versus Usos versus FTR, Swerve and Strickland, a lot of teams there really. Lucha Bros, House of Black, there's a lot of different teams you could go against. The Acclaimed now are really good. Obviously, yeah, so I'll say the Usos. Now on the flip side, for AEW, WWE, I think this is going to be a boring answer, but I think it's the obvious one. That's MJF. I mean, this one, in my gut, this is going to happen. I feel like January 2024. I think, yeah, I just feel like it's something MJF wants. I feel like it's something WWE want. I think MJF is going to go to WWE in 2024. And now, obviously, with the big changes of Vince being out and Triple H being in, I think the biggest fear is MJF would get changed. But now I feel like a Triple H in charge, MJF has a much better chance of being creatively fulfilled than he had before. And a lot of people point to the PG thing as a restriction, but I feel like MJF's talented enough to get around that and make it work. I really do. So yeah, I would definitely. Yeah, MJF for me, I think that is an obvious one. I think another obvious one is Wardlow as well. I feel like that. That feels like a fairly obvious one as well. Obviously Wardlow's size and look and all that. I feel like he'd be great for WWE right now, because WWE always like to push the bigger guys, and I feel like Wardlow would fit right into WWE. And then the third one, I've got to go with Jade Cargill. Now, I just feel like with her, like she has a look and a star presence that's just perfect for WWE, and I feel like WWE would be able to make it better as well, because I feel like WWE's got the performance center she can train in and stuff, and I just feel like WWE's got a much better women's roster, because I don't think she's really improved that much in the ring in AEW, and that's because obviously AEW don't have a performance center that she can train in a lot, and she's just not getting the time to really improve in AEW, is she? But I feel, as obviously in WWE, she'd be working a lot of house shows and stuff like that. So, and I think there's lots of good women on the roster you could put her with to help Jade Cargill improve. So there you go. So we've got AJ, Ricochet, Usos on one side, MJF, Wardlow, Jade Cargill on the other side. Do Do you ever see Ricky Starks win the AEW for the next 10 years in brackets? I think that's a ton of potential. Yeah. To be fair, I think 10 years is... I think you can do it to 5 years if I'm being honest, at least. Yeah, yes, I am quite certain Ricky Starks will be an AEW champion in the future. I mean, that's the guy AEW they've got now on the roster that's on the verge of breaking out, and they need to get it right with him. I mean, he's decent look, he's great in the ring, but most importantly, he's great in the microphone, which, let's face it, not a lot of AEW guys are. And the size thing isn't really a barrier in AEW because he's no smaller than most of the guys in the AEW roster. And I think he's still in his, if he's not in his 20s, and he's in his very early 30s. So, yeah, I would honestly say 10 years is way too long. I could easily see him doing it in 5, never mind 10. What would you say the best year of AEW has been? 2021, last year. Yeah, I think obviously 2021 was great. I mean, obviously you had the epic all-out pay-per-view, great pay-per-view, Full Gear. Then just some, I think the roster he had before they all got injured and that was just incredible. So he had the incredible stuff of Bryan Danielson and CM Punk both coming to AEW. Then guys like Black and Andrade and all that coming in. They had Kenny Omega on top and all that. And yeah, and obviously, so I would say that period from when the fans came back for the rest of the year was just an amazing time, really. I mean, I think we were spoiled. We had so many good Dynamite episodes, so many good matches and all that. So yeah, I would say 2021 was definitely the best. I mean, it's only been 4 years of AEW so far, but 2021 stood out as the best for me. Okay, what 5 WrestleManias would you change the main event of? So I'm going to go chronological order here. I mean, WrestleMania 8, that's an obvious one. That's probably a boring answer, but so obviously it would be Hogan and Flair as the main event for WrestleMania 8. I mean, I don't need to go into big detail about that one, do I? Then I'll say the following year, actually, WrestleMania 9, I would have went for 1993 Royal Rumble winner Macho Man Randy Savage challenging the WWF champion Bret Hart. I think that was a great time to do that match, and I think it would have been very worthy of a WrestleMania main event. And with Savage losing to Bret and putting him over, and by kind of putting Bret Hart over as the star of the new generation, I think that would have been great. Then I'll go with WrestleMania 2000, and that's a simple one, really. Just have The Rock and Triple H go one-on-one. That was the real WrestleMania main event. The Backlash match felt much bigger than the actual WrestleMania 2000 main event, didn't it? So yeah, I would have went with that one. Then WrestleMania 18, this is an obvious one. Hogan versus Rock goes on last. I mean, Triple H and Jericho was technically the WrestleMania main event in the sense that it went on last, but it wasn't the WrestleMania main event. That was Hogan versus Wade. You can either do Hogan and Rock or Hogan versus Austin. Take your pick out of those two. And then a slightly more modern one, I would say WrestleMania 29, you do that obvious thing and add CM Punk to that match. So it's CM Punk versus John Cena versus The Rock. Or if you could find something else for The Rock to do, John Cena versus CM Punk as the main event of WrestleMania. Either way, CM Punk should be the main event of that WrestleMania. I think that's pretty obvious. In the 2010s, what Big Four pay-per-views has the best quality of everyone that can find? Like, did SummerSlam have the best shows in the 2010s? Or did the Royal Rumble survive? Yeah, I get it. So let's have a look at it. So the Royal Rumble, you had a pretty decent 2010, so-so 2011, meh 12, meh 13, crappy 14, crappy 15, really good 16, as a short, a good 17, a decent 18, and a decent 19. So I wouldn't say that. WrestleMania had a very good 26, a pretty bad 27, a great 28, a good 29, I would say, good 30, great 30, great 31, a not so good 32, a pretty decent 33, but it was probably too long, a kind of in the middle 34, and then 35 was a really good WrestleMania. Then so for SummerSlam you had a pretty bad 2012, 10, a great 11, a decent 12, an awesome 13, a solid 14, a great 15, a kind of disappointing 16, an alright 17, a pretty decent 18, and a pretty solid 19. Now Then I would say for Survivor Series, you had a crap 2010, a good 2011, a pretty decent 12, a crappy 13, an alright 14, an alright 15, I suppose. Now 15 was actually pretty crap if I remember. A great 16, 17, a pretty good 18, and a solid 19. So I would say WrestleMania. I'll go for WrestleMania over the rest. Now we got Kevin Lenz. Yeah, Kevin Lenz. Now we've got 3 more sets of questions, guys. So if you could recommend... Okay, so this is a good one, actually, to be fair. And I can give you an answer because I've thought about it a lot in the past. If you could recommend 5... This could be a video one day, so I'll try and be as brief as I can. If you could recommend 5 matches to any... from any company to non-wrestling fans, what would they be? So I would not say I wouldn't show them long matches, because I feel like long wrestling matches you have to, because I think most people don't fall in love with wrestling due to technical wrestling, do they? I think when you're a kid you fall in love with the characters and the storylines, and as you grow up as a wrestling fan you start to appreciate the in-ring work a little bit more. So I would say the first one would be Bret and Stone Cold at WrestleMania 13, because you got to think, like, even non-wrestling fans will know who Stone Cold Steve Austin is. Even if they've never watched wrestling before, they'll know who Steve Austin is, right? I think that's fair. But I think because obviously this one tells a good logical story that really anyone can understand. I think you don't have to be a big wrestling buff to appreciate the story being told in the ring on that match. And obviously the intensity and the work and all that. I think the non-wrestling fan would appreciate it. Then Undertaker versus Mankind, Hell in a Cell, because it's an easy way to impress someone, isn't it? Let's be fair. I feel like this is a match that a non-wrestling fan would... I think they'd realise, like, what? He threw him off the Hell in a Cell? What? What just happened there? Then when Mick Foley took that mega bump through the cell, it's like, wow. So it's like, yeah, that wrestling stuff's fake, isn't it? But there's no way Mick Foley was not hurt out after that. You know what I mean? So I think, obviously, do you think the pure spectacle and all that of the King of the Ring 98 Hell in a Cell match, I think a wrestling fan would appreciate it. Then I would say Rock versus Hogan at WrestleMania 18. Because let's face it, they would know Dwayne Johnson, wouldn't they? And then I think even non-wrestling fan would know who Hulk Hogan is. And I just think this, because obviously as a wrestling match, that match wasn't that good really. It was a very average wrestling match, wasn't it? But I think just the sheer spectacle and the crowd and all that, and just the 2 icons going one-on-one at a massive stage like WrestleMania. I could see a non-wrestling fan getting into that one. And then I would go for TLC 2 at WrestleMania 17, because much like the Undertaker Shawn Michaels Hell in a Cell match, I think non-wrestling fans would be blown away by the stunts in that one. I think the WrestleMania 2 felt that one's a bit longer and a bit more drawn out, where this TLC one was just all crazy action, balls to the walls, boom, 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 spot, spot, spot. I think even if you don't like wrestling, you could truly appreciate what Hardy's, Dudley's and Edge and Christian were doing in those matches. The insane risks they were taking and all that type of thing. Yeah. And then the last one, I would say, it's not, I suppose 11 years ago isn't that modern, but I would say to show people what like a modern type style of match is, I would say John Cena versus CM Punk for Money in the Bank 2011. I think that's a match, because I feel like wrestling changed a lot after that match. I mean, I think the atmosphere in that one, the amazing storytelling, all the great moves, and all the pure excitement of that match. I think anyone could just be impressed by that. But that's a great question. I mean, I could maybe expand on this in a video in the future, but that's the quickest answer I can give. So let's just recap: Bret Austin WrestleMania 13, Undertaker Mankind King of the Ring 98, Rock versus Hogan WrestleMania 18, TLC 2 WrestleMania 17, and John Cena versus CM Punk for Money in the Bank. What is your favourite AEW Dynamite match so far? I'll say Danielson versus Omega from Grand Slam last year in Arthur Ashe, nearly a year ago. I mean, God, yeah, I love that match. That match is awesome. Because this was Danielson's first match in AEW, and it was against Kenny Omega. And he went 30 minutes and just absolutely tore the house down. It was Danielson's first match outside WWE for like 11 years. So it was like, can Danielson still be the American Dragon Bryan Danielson of old? And I think he answered that question with an emphatic yes. Oh, God, that match was absolutely off the chart. I would say a close second would be Danielson versus Hangman Page from Winter is Coming, the 1 hour draw in December of last year. But yeah, so far, it's definitely Danielson versus Omega. I think AEW is going downhill. Personally, feel the product's been the weakest it's ever been. So, as I said before, yeah, I do. I think downhill might be a bit of an exaggeration, because I feel like if AEW just refocus and just made a few creative switches and all that, and just put a few things in place, I think they can come back to it where they were before. I do. But yes, has it been the worst it's been? I don't know, because I feel like much like everywhere else, the early days of the pandemic were a bit bad, weren't they? So like, say the middle of 2020, well, it wasn't bad, but you know, it wasn't great either. But I would say from definitely where we were a year ago, AEW's definitely lost steam. I mean, I talked about this when I talked about all our previous predictions, but yeah, I just feel like AEW could be so much better than it is right now, and I hope it's going to be, because I really want to like AEW, because I think it's so good for the wrestling business. But you know, okay, well, this is a simple one really, so I won't talking about it too. So I've talked about this one a lot in the past. If you could only watch one wrestling pay-per-view for the rest of your life, what would it be? Easy answer, WrestleMania 17, because yeah, obviously I just love that pay-per-view. So much nostalgia. It is my favourite pay-per-view of all time. So it would have to, if I had to pick, it would be that one, obviously. Then who has had the best title reign in any company in your opinion for the last 5 years? So I'm going to slightly bend the rules for this one as well, and say Okada's IWGP Heavyweight title reign from Dominion 2016 to Dominion 2018. So I say I bend the rules. It does qualify because the reign happened in the last 5 years, but the reign actually started 6 years ago and ended 4 years ago. So yeah, I'm going to counter it. But for me, in modern times, that is the epitome of an epic world title reign. I mean, the length, yeah, that is what it is. I mean, but my God, I think that's the title reign that got me into New Japan Wrestling, watching Okada's title matches, and just the volume of epic title defenses he had. Start with Morofuji, King of Pro Wrestling 2016. Then the epic Wrestle Kingdom clash of Kenny Omega. Then they had that awesome match of Suzuki at New Beginning. That epic Sakura Genesis match with Shibata. Then the 1 hour draw with Omega as well. I mean, there's some not so great matches in there. For example, him and Bad Luck Fale wrestling Don Taku. Him and Cody in America was a good match, not a great match. I think ditto to the Evil match after the G1. Was it King of Pro Wrestling 2017? I want to say it was. And then obviously defending the belt again in the Wrestle Kingdom main event against Naito. I mean, I know arguably Naito probably should have won at Wrestle Kingdom 12, but that was still a great match nonetheless. Then he had a really underrated match with Sanada at New Beginning 2018. I mean, that match, because him and Sanada has a lot better matches than that, but that match was actually fantastic. And then he had 2 more amazing title defenses, one against Zack Sabre Jr. at Sakura Genesis 2018. God, that was a great match. And then what I like to call the forgotten Okada vs Tanahashi classic, Okada vs Tanahashi at Wrestling Don Taku 2018. That was an amazing match. And then the fact that the reign ended in probably the most perfect way it could have done, with the big 2 out of 3 falls match with Kenny Omega, the tiebreaker. Then Omega culminating the 1.5 year story of chasing Okada for the title, then finally winning it at Dominion 2018. So yeah, great stuff. So 2 more sets of questions. We just 2 hours into this, guys. So this has been a good Q&A. Jack Curran, who in your opinion is the biggest star in wrestling today? Not the best in-ring wrestler, biggest star. So I think it's Brock Lesnar. I mean, yes, relatively full-time people is Roman Reigns, but just feel like Brock Lesnar is obviously a Because obviously Brock Lesnar is Brock Lesnar and he wrestles a few times a year and all that, but yeah, I think Brock Lesnar, from all the stuff he did in past in WWE to UFC to all the stuff he's done since coming back to WWE, and holy shit, he's actually been back in WWE for 10 years on and off. That's unbelievable, isn't it? So I'll say Roman Reigns is not quite as big a star as Brock Lesnar in my opinion. So I'm going to go with Brock Lesnar for that one. Which do you value more in wrestling? Promos and charisma and in-ring action? I would say especially now, because I feel like it's much more important now. I think promo and in-ring charisma. Let's just put it this way. I've seen a lot more quote-unquote bad wrestlers with great promo skills and charisma become bigger stars than people who were great in the ring but couldn't talk. I think nowadays, I think nowadays you can't really get away with being bad at one of them. I think nowadays you can get away with being great at one of them and alright in the other one. In the sense, like, I think you have to be able to go in the ring to a certain extent now that maybe in the 80s and early 90s you get away with. Like being bad in the ring but having great promo skills. And on the upside, I think nowadays to truly connect with the fans, you have to be able to talk and have to have promos. I mean, two examples for me I always pick out is Daniel Bryan never truly got over until he turned heel and did the whole thing as a world heavyweight champion. And then the Team Hell No stuff especially got to that next level, even though he's one of the best wrestlers in the world for years and years at that point. And the other one, Eddie Guerrero. When did Eddie Guerrero truly break through? When he started doing the lie, cheat and steal character stuff. That's when he truly got over it. And I think especially now, because we've seen over the last 10 years or so many people coming from the indie scene where, yes, they could have a really great match and all that, but the characters is basically, oh, I'm a 15-year veteran living my dream. I grew up with being a wrestler and now I'm doing it. Yay me. So these ones, why do you think The Fiend was so popular for a while? Because he was an amazing character, you know what I mean? Even like people have been big stars, like CM Punk would never have been a star if he couldn't cut promos. Honestly, I mean, if Kenny Omega was just a boring personality, Kenny Omega would never have really made it big in wrestling. That sort of thing. So yeah, and then obviously like I said earlier, Daniel Bryan wouldn't be where he is if he couldn't talk on the microphone, sort of thing. Seth Rollins wouldn't be where he is now if he couldn't cut promo, because obviously Seth Rollins used to be a rotten promo, and then he actually turned into a pretty good promo. So I think, so if I had to pick one, it would have to be promos and character work, to be honest. Okay, bigger upside, i.e. the guy's the biggest main event potential. Ricky Starks or Powerhouse Hobbs? I would say Starks for the reason I said before. I mean, Hobbs is obviously a much bigger guy and all that, but I think obviously he's still inexperienced and he hasn't really shown good mic work yet. I mean, other than being a generic powerhouse, obviously kind of wrestler, he hasn't shown me that much really, to be honest. Ricky Stark, obviously, I've mentioned him earlier, great on the microphone, good in the ring, got a good year's amount of experience. So I would say if anyone's going to break through, it would be Ricky Starks out of the two. Then what are some feuds that fell short or surpassed your expectation? So let's do some surpassed ones first. I'll say the one I always go with is Undertaker versus Batista in 2007. I mean, on paper I was not excited for that really, because I thought it could have just been another kind of bad Undertaker versus Big Man feud and it just wouldn't really be that interesting. But no, they had the best feud of 2007 and one of the best feuds of that entire era. Looking back, honestly, really, one of the best feuds Undertaker ever had, really, if you think about it. I mean, yeah, that's I've got to go with Undertaker versus Batista. Give you a modern one, Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso from 2020. I mean, how they got two super hot pay-per-views out of that, I'll never know. Because on paper, it was like, Jey Uso, a tag team wrestler, getting a world title shot on a pay-per-view? Huh? Is that? But no, the story was actually amazing. Well, not amazing, but really, really good. And then obviously they had a match at the Clash of Champions, which was excellent. But obviously the most memorable one, the Hell in a Cell I Quit match, won a Hell in a Cell. Wow, that match was like way, way better than I was expecting it to be. Just honestly unbelievable stuff. Good stuff. Then some disappointing feuds. Yeah, Triple H and Orton. I mean, I always think of that one when I think of disappointing feuds. But on paper, that feud should have been amazing, really. Triple H and Randy Orton, two very similar style of wrestlers. The whole history of evolution, all that. But it was just, It had high points for sure. I mean, they had the odd really good match and all that. But a lot of the times it was, Do you know what I mean? It was just kind of like, it was just alright. But then the WWE obviously tried to dress it up as this big epic rivalry. But it really wasn't, sort of thing. And I just kind of feel like Orton never won when it truly mattered. I mean, he got one over on Triple H from time to time, but when push came to shove, Triple H usually went over Orton in the big situation, and I just feel like that kind of shit the bed. And then AJ Nakamura from 2018, that feud should have been awesome. I mean, the ingredients were there. They had the epic Wrestle Kingdom match, and this is the match the fans want to see in WWE, and they built it up for a whole year. And the feud was alright. Yeah, basically it was alright. It wasn't like a terrible feud or anything, but because this feud honestly should have been so much better than it was, honestly. Like, you know what I mean? But yeah, those ones that stand out. And then what do you want from the Triple H era in WWE? Honestly, I just want effort. I just want them to try the best. And just try, and I'm seeing that so far, because wrestling's never going to be like it was in the Attitude Era. It's just not. The world's different, and that's just never going to happen. And we shouldn't really expect or want that anymore. Because let's face it, a lot of that stuff hasn't aged well. But the biggest thing, I just want effort. I just want to see some positivity. I just want them to try the best to have the best show they can have. I mean, they're not going to hit home runs all the time. That's fair to say. I just want some good logical storytelling, some good feuds, and just try your best. That's all I can really ask for the show to be as good as it can be. And I can't really ask for any more than that, can I? So last set of questions from Samoa Fan 101. Don't worry guys, none of these questions are actually serious questions, but I'll go along with it anyway. What were your childhood reaction to beaver cleavage compared to today? Honestly, I can barely remember beaver cleavage at the time. I don't know why. I can't really remember. I don't really have any of vivid childhood. Well, I was 12 at the time, so whether you want to call me a kid at 12, I don't know. But yeah, I don't really remember it that much. But even today, I'm like, okay, this is kind of amusing, but it's not really going to do anything, is it? Oh, God. Right. His words, not mine. So just don't tie me with this brush. Did Heidenreich rape Michael Cole? Well, he's another slant on that question. Would it be rape? Did Michael Cole want Heidenreich to bum him? So maybe Michael Cole wanted it. You know what I mean? So if Michael Cole wanted it, it wasn't rape. But no, be serious. Oh God, yeah, I don't know. WWE never to be fair, WWE never specifically said Heidenreich bum raped Michael Cole, but they never specifically said he didn't bum rape him either. Okay, we'll move on from that one before this gets out of hand a little bit. Can you explain Samoa Joe's kidnapping in 2012? Yeah, Samoa Joe got kidnapped by some random ninjas at an Impact show. They attacked Samoa Joe, chucked him in the back of a car, drove off. Samoa Joe wasn't seen on TV for several months. Samoa Joe came back to TV. They didn't mention it again. They did not mention it again. It's like, okay, this storyline was stupid, but we could have an interest in who done it right. Who were these people that kidnapped Samoa Joe, and why did they kidnap Samoa Joe? But no, Samoa Joe just came back to TV and they just acted like it never happened. Now, it was a funny story. I heard about that one. And this is a cover for Vince Russo, so Vince Russo could be talking shit here. So, can't remember when it was, but Samoa Joe, read an interview by Samoa Joe where he was saying some bad stuff about Samoa Joe. So, Vince Russo emailed Samoa Joe, yeah, Joe, what's your problem with me and all that? And then Samoa Joe messaged him back that that he was pissed off that Russo wrote that stupid storyline and then hurt his career. And Vince Russo claims, and you got to be skeptical here, that it wasn't that wasn't his idea. Russo claims that was Eric Bischoff's idea. So God knows what they were thinking, really. I think they just wanted to get Samoa Joe off TV and just thought that was a way to do it. And then when he came back, he realised how stupid the storyline was and just decided never to mention it again. Now, yes, and this one is true. Do you remember the story of Vince trying to get a storyline where he'd be the father of Stephanie's child? Yes, this is a true story. So when Stephanie was pregnant the first time in 2006, Vince McMahon pitched he pitched a storyline where Vince would be the father of Stephanie's baby. Why? Like, what the fuck? Like, how bonkers can you be to, like, sit there and come up with that idea and be actually serious about it? Yeah, like, honestly, what goes on in his brain to think this is a good idea? But obviously Stephanie, realising it was absolutely disgusting, turned the angle down. But Vince was not to be deterred. He tried to reach a compromise. Okay, if Vince wasn't going to be the father of the baby, could Shane be the father of the baby? That's honestly got the pitch. Though getting turned down by Stephanie for pretending to have sex with her own dad. Oh, but having sex with her own brother's fine. No, she's turned that one down as well. And it's just one of those things, like, how disgusting must a person be to, like, sitting there, yeah, we'll do a storyline where I fuck my own daughter and I'll be my grandchild's dad, you know? Thank God they didn't do it, though. And the last question in the whole Q&A, what was your first reaction to Mae Young giving birth to a hand? It was like, eh? It's a hand. How the... What? To be fair, it was kind of... It was stupid, yes. But it was kind of funny sort of things. It's like, why? Well, number one, how the hell is a pregnancy only lasted like 3 weeks or a month or whatever the hell it was? Number two, it's 70 odd year old. How the hell can she get pregnant anyway? And number three, why is a baby a hand? You know, and how's the hand doing now? The hand will be 22 years old now. I wonder how Mae Young's Mark Henry's son is doing. Good God, terrible stuff. But that's a wrap, guys. So quite a long Q&A. So thanks for all the questions, and until next time, peace.